All right, Perry, you want to say goodnight to the stream? We'll see everybody on Friday.
I'll see you guys whenever.
On Friday. All right. Bye, guys. I don't want to hear any complaints that we, didn't do the hot tub stream because impromptu hot tub stream. Done. 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 I got to say, I am, as Perry would say, worn out. You guys, he put me through the ringer tonight. Just, I don't know. There's sometimes where he can be so, I don't know what the word is. Just, it wasn't just the fact that he was like a dead fish or this, and there were ebbs and flows. Or there was part where he was like, fine, and then raging out, and then he reaches a point where it's just like I explained to him yesterday. Actually, Perry and I had a very good, like fairly good, almost like business conversation about like PCL stuff that we had to talk about, and I think Perry, when he gets all like in psycho mode, he's like a glass of half filled water, and then all like whatever that it could be. West Most with his videos, or whatever, something that is gay stuff, 92 stuff, RC stuff, and the water just keeps filling, and then almost when it's near the top, something else comes in where he just loses it, and you plop like 5 Alka-Seltzers into the already filled glass, and then that's when he overflows, and that's when he's in psycho mode, and there's no coming back. So there was a little bit of that. When Tom dropped the F-bomb, I got scared. I'm sorry. Listen, like I said, I got a really long fuse. I have endless patience. I really do. And I'm not even a yeller. I really don't raise my voice in my normal life. And sometimes he just really pushes my buttons, and it gets so, not to put myself on any kind of cross or anything like that, but I had a long day today. And I got another day tomorrow where, again, everybody that works for PCL, which is a short list, we all have real jobs. And Perry doesn't. This is Perry's job, as it should be. It's Perry Caravello. Perry Caravello Live. He's Perry Caravello. But damn, I just wish he would acknowledge some things when he's doing the stream, and like give it a priority at least. And he just, I don't know, it was like pulling teeth for a while. And these are the streams that are the worst for me, because it's exhausting. It's really exhausting to have to, like even when he started off today, like I normally like him to kind of talk about whatever, especially after a weekend. This is what I did this weekend or whatever. Talk about this or that. And then when he's at the point, like within a couple of minutes, and he's like, all right, what else? what do I do? What do I say? And then I got to come in, and then I feel like, then I got to carry the thing. And I know like people that would tune into this that don't even know, who the hell I am or anything about PCL. Like, oh, who's this guy doing all the talking or whatever? And it's like, well, sometimes I have to. Oh, thanks, Weavy G. I admire you too. I admire you, TomB. I gave a tiny fuse. Yeah, you make your jokes demons, but you have the patience of a nun. I do. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I've really adjust. I've adjusted how I deal with Perry on the stream, in the 3 years since we've been doing this, and I kind of try to do it like calm, cool, and collected now, where I don't get too heated. I mean, I got heated tonight because it's just like it was like enough was enough with this guy. Like I definitely got heated for a little bit there, but back in the day when we started doing the stream, like I wouldn't even be on the microphone. I'd be in his earpiece. And I would, be directing him and, telling him like, what we're doing, and if he was starting this nonsense like goodbye, we're going, I'd be like, Perry, don't sit down, do your stream and stop being an end. So if you ever watch those old, like I'm talking like the first couple of months, where like out of nowhere he just gets those his eyeballs are like coming out of his skull, and that's because I'm giving him shit in his earpiece. And we haven't used an earpiece in like Jesus, like I don't know, going on a year now. I don't know, definitely like 9 months or so. And it's challenging for me because I can't do that anymore. I can't like, sometimes when you would go to the bathroom, I'm like, all right, Perry, get your shit together. John Schmidt says, you did great. I would have called him the worst F-bomb tonight. I know what you mean. But I don't have that thing anymore. Like sometimes, like, and every now and again, when we be doing the stream, like I'd be in his ear, and then I'd forget that the microphone was on, and I'd be like, "You motherfucker, you better fuck." Yeah, I'm sorry. By the way, I'm sorry for cursing. We're gonna the no cursing rules off the table tonight. I'm gonna drop some bombs. That's just the way it is. I know we usually try to class it up on After Hours. It's not going to be the case. Sorry. But I, for whatever reason, let's say whatever he was doing, like he'd be like storming away from like an offer that Jim busted his ass for. And when I say the offers, it's like anybody who sends Perry an offer, it goes right to him, 100% to him. Goes right to his Venmo or his PayPal. It's like what's an easier gig? I think he makes more money on the offers than he does on anything else on the stream, to be honest with you. Because everything else has like something YouTube takes out 30%, and Stream Elements takes out, PayPal takes out, whatever. That's 100% to him. So he'd be storming away. I'd be like, "God damn you, sit down," and I'd really be like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, like when he's like screaming at somebody. But then after a while, I kind of I just shifted because I realized you don't fight gasoline with gasoline, or you don't fight. You don't pour fire. You don't pour gasoline to put out a fire. So now I try to be way calmer in demeanor with him. But even that has its limits, because it's just what's extra frustrating for me tonight is we had a really good talk yesterday, and I had to talk to his cousin because for those that don't know, Perry's cousin kind of runs his finances and is his accountant basically, and I wanted to see. Something with YouTube came in, and not to bore you with details, but I had to get approval. I have to get approval, because it's a partnership. Perry and I are, the company, the business. So I include him on things like, hey, there's this advertising thing, and we should spend this kind of money on this. Do I have your approval, to use this out of, the business funds that have come in? And he was very reasonable and very we talked about it. And then even today, I said, "Hey Perry, leading up to the stream, can you play ball tonight? Can you not be just a pain in my butt tonight? I kind of had a long day." Whenever I say that, I know he's going to be worse than ever. It just happens that way. If I'm sick or whatever, I never tell him I'm sick anymore. Luckily, I haven't been sick, knock on wood, but I haven't been sick, but jeez. No, not cousin Sammy. No, his good cousin. Sammy's useless. But anyway, so we had all this talk. He's like, I know, and he's like, I'm really appreciative of this. And like, like he's treated himself really well, especially in the past few weeks. Like he went shopping today. He bought like clothes. He bought this. And he was never able to do that 3 years ago. Never. He goes out to eat every day, every day. Sometimes 2 meals a day. Eats out, and I'm happy for him. He should. He works hard. So, Tom, what do you think about Keanu, Gino, and Steel Toe going after you? I could give less than a fuck. Perry reaches more people yelling out his patio door than those idiots reach. But everybody's entitled to their opinion, as long as it's an opinion. If they say anything matter of fact, that's going to be a problem for them. But I don't give a flying fuck. I really don't. And again, you gotta excuse my potty mouth. This is like after hours uncensored. I just once that floodgate happens, I'm just kind of potty mouthing it. But anyway, and Perry's entitled to all these things. I just wish in the moment, like he's just such a dingling, where he doesn't appreciate what he has. He doesn't appreciate his job. So that's it. What's going on with Kumi? I heard he's in the hospital. Did he have some kind of heart issue? I hope he's okay. I saw something that he was in the hospital. Anthony Kumi. I know he had some heart thing, or he needed some kind of like. I don't know. I don't know the whole story, but I think he missed his show or something like that, or last week, and he was in the hospital for some heart stuff. So I hope he's okay. Thoughts and prayers. Cussing is effing awesome. Look, sometimes it's necessary to punctuate a statement. Sometimes it's necessary. You have to, drop it. I really try hard not to on the stream. Because Perry's such a garbage mouth. Oh, Kumi is okay. Text with him tonight. Okay, John. Well, send Kumi our best from Team PCL, Perry and myself and everybody else on the team that we're big supporters, and we hope he feels better. But so anyway. I try not to be, because Perry's such a garbage mouth, and people say to me, "Oh, why do you say to Perry, watch his potty mouth?" I like Perry cursing, all the time, and it's like, obviously I know Perry's never gonna not curse. I just sometimes want him to be aware of how insane he's getting. Tom, can I see Perry's camera? Any sign of the little sausage? I did turn it off. I don't see any sign of his little sausage, unfortunately. Wavy G says, I hope Kumi has the black doctor. Why do these people live among us? If you ever reach Kumi's Twitter, it's like, it's unbelievable sometimes. They're not even human. And he'll post some like riot video of like whatever. After hours, like Outback Steakhouse, no rules, anything goes. Yeah. Anyway, so nights like tonight are trying for the soul. He just broke my patience. So many times, and I'm glad most people get it. I didn't have too many people writing. Sometimes throughout the stream, people I know mainly will write me, and nobody said, "Hey, you were too hard on Perry." Will do. I asked Ant if he had any black nurses. He said he only had the best whites and Asian bronze. All right. Well, good. I'm glad he's happy. I'm glad he's in a good space. I love you too, not T Jesus. Perry gets sick from Farmer Boys. I think you're right. I was so pissed off when he was at Farmer Boys, like within an hour before the stream, stuffing his face with some stupid fast food. We love you, TomB. Oh, thank you. I love you too. Hey, shout out to Jimmy Carter, 99 years young. I hope you make it to 100. You notice not too many people make it to 100? They all go, 99 seems to be the limit for like famous people that go old. Even like not famous people. Like I had a friend, have a friend. He had a grandfather, and okay, I have an update on Perry. Butt effing naked right now. Butt effing naked. It's a good thing you guys can't see this. I feel weird. I actually got to turn the camera. I feel weird looking at his, because the mainstream camera. I feel weird looking at that when he's, when we're off. Now we're off the air. So I'm going to turn this off. Oh my God. That was bad. I wish I didn't see. Oh my God. Oh, if you missed it, oh my God. How do I turn this damn thing off? If you missed it earlier in the stream, I did post a little screenshot of Perry, and a butt naked in front of the screen. Of course, I censored it. John Russo, by the way, is I guess is it best to say Kumi's ghostwriter for his books. He says our publishing house caught wind Ant was in the hospital, and our editor texted me and asked if this would affect the date of putting his book on Amazon. That's how much corporate cares. Yeah, I've been in publishing, and that plays. That sounds about right. Yeah, Perry's going to bed. All the lights are off and everything, so I'll just let him go. I'm not gonna call him or anything like that. We'll see if I hear from him tomorrow. No, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to put him on the air when he knows. But the other day, like I was tempted to go back online. The stream ended. The song played and it ended. I was tempted to kind of go back, just because I had nothing better to do until this. With that huge storm, and it was kind of letting up a little bit. And I was like, oh, let's see. And then I saw Perry walk out naked. I was like, nope. Not a good idea. Perry probably took a shower and now he's going to go to bed. And he'll wake up and he, like I said earlier, he'll either wake up completely rebooted, like nothing happened, or not. Or he'll be mad at me for something. But he never says, I'm done. Well, almost never. He never does the, like, I'm done. Why is Perry so spoiled? He wants money for nothing now. Well, I mean, look, he's been doing this for 3 years, and this, and he has gotten a little spoiled. That there's no thing, there's no wrong about that. I've done 7 books. The only one I've ghosted wasn't on the cover was Congressman Ron Jackson. Well, as somebody who has ghost written before, I know how thankless that is. I need to play a trick on him and make him think it's all going away. Right, but how do I do that? Like, how do I do that for real? Because then that gets into so many other things. Like I can't do that because he can quickly check and realize that it's not gone away. I would need Amy. I would need like real Amy for that. like real hot. I would need hot Amy to be real, like a real hacker to do that. And plus, I wouldn't want to do that. That's dishonest, and I don't like to do that in business. And he's supposed to be my business partner, really, at the end of the day. And it's just tough. It's hard. It's hard working with a guy and for a guy, where you're building railroad tracks, and he just builds brick walls in front of them. And once in a while he sees the light. He does. Like, and maybe he'll see it this week and come back with a better attitude on Friday. But this is always the way it's going to be. It's always going to be ups and downs. And the truth is, the thing that I always say is, regardless of what kind of parry you get on any given stream, it's a little different. You're never going to get the same guy. That's why, like, there's other streamers that I see that are kind of like Perry or Perry-esque, and they don't hold a candle to Perry because they're the same note every time. I was going to almost say effing time, but I caught myself. They're always the same note. It's a flat line. Perry is a graph chart where it's peaks and valleys and peaks and then drops off, but it's never the same. All these other people, they're the same. So it's good. That hot tub was too good not to do it. I know, I saw the hot tub and I was like, listen, this guy owes us a hot tub stream. Let's get it done. And I thought that guy in the hot tub, maybe he didn't speak English at first, but then he got the hell out of there. A few days on the streets of Florida would do it some good. Make him realize how good he has it. Yeah. Well, Florida's the dream for everybody. I want to move to Florida. I want to get the hell out of New York eventually. I can't afford to live in New York for, however long that I have to be here. There's nothing. I like where I live. There's a lot of options where I live. I don't mind it, but as far as like New York City goes, you can have it. What do I think about the book title "Spare Me" for the Kumia book? A spook of Prince Harry's best title, "Spare." I don't like Americans spoofing British. That kind of gives too much credit to the Prince Harry stuff. I thought about that. I don't like it. I think there's other stuff. I think it could be something as simple like Live from the Compound or something, whatever. I don't know, something simple. I don't like giving British tabloid stuff any play. Yeah, New York is horrible, but it wasn't. It was great for a long time, but now it's just the worst, man. It is so... And I'm saying this as somebody who really... I defended New York City to people when they were saying, oh, New York City's lost. And I was like, no, it's still great. It has its moments, but not anymore. Anybody who badmouths New York, I'm like, yep, you're right. It sucks. And every now and again, I get a friend that comes in and they're visiting the city, and I take them around, and we go to all these, and I try to find little pockets where it's still, fine. But man, it's just... Yeah, Prince Harry is a dingling worse than Perry. I agree. I agree. I have just no interest, and it's an American thing. I have no interest in any of the British royalty. I don't care. Never cared. Even when I was a kid and like Princess Diana was a big thing. Never. Just don't care. And that goes for anybody. Any kind of royalty figure outside of the United States. Don't care. It doesn't interest. It doesn't affect me. That's how I feel about Chicago. Yeah, Chicago's another one. I used to go to Chicago a lot. Chicago's another city. I don't think Chicago's as bad as New York is right now. New York right now is as bad as it has ever been. And thankfully, I don't have to be in New York City every day. I do have to go in for work, every now and again. But... Jesus Christ, it's just bad. Do you at least visit New York pizza joints? Yeah, when people come out of town, that's where they want to go. So I'll take them to I'll take them to good pizza places. That's fine. I don't even like pizza that much, to be honest with you. Like, it's fine, but I don't live and die by it. Like, some people are like, oh, I can never leave New York. Where are we going to get good pizza from? I can care less. Also care less about bagels. I know, like, bagels are a big thing in New York. I don't care about bagels either. But I don't know. I'm very jaded. I'm very jaded with New York. Portland ain't great now either. I've heard that. But that's been the case for a long time. Maybe you said Chicago has superior pizza in New York is what I'm saying. Well, if Chicago actually had pizza, I'll tell you what. I'll be honest. If I'll play the honest card right now. I was in Chicago about I don't know, 5 years ago. It was definitely pre-pandemic. And I went to a place, and it was like late, so there wasn't a lot of food options, and we hadn't eaten. We went to a show, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, somebody ordered pizza at this bar, and I was like, whatever. And it was like bar pizza, like very thin crust bar pizza, and it had like this like caramelized vinaigrette on it with like fresh mozzarella and everything. It was actually really good, and that was pizza in Chicago that I enjoyed. But as far as like the deep dish stuff, please, that's not pizza. John says, I lived in Manhattan for 19 years. It was great under Giuliani and Bloomberg. Went to shit under de Blasio. Yeah, look, I agree with you. Without getting political, I agree with you. I do think there's something to what you're saying as far as like, liberal politicians ruining cities. However, with Giuliani, people praise Giuliani, but Giuliani he was fine, but I mean, New York City definitely needed to be cleaned up. For example, like the Times Square area. But Giuliani needed to come in with a bunch of brooms and clean it out. He came in with a fleet of bulldozers and forever changed the landscape of New York City, where Giuliani bleached it to death to the point where there was no personality left in the city. The city lost a lot of its heart in the 90s into the early 2000s, and where there used to be a distinction between neighborhoods, like, oh, I live in Murray Hill, okay, I'm in the East Village, and Murray Hill was different from Chelsea, and Chelsea was different from Hell's Kitchen or the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side, and now it's all the same. It's all just a generic blob with very little personality. The East Village still hangs in there with a little bit of its own identity, and the financial district has its own identity. As far as the rest of it goes, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I lived in the city, I lived in the West Village, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. So yeah, Rudy made it Disney, just like Times Square. I mean, could you leave one peep show place in Times Square? Could you leave like one crap hole bar, from Times Square or anywhere around there? And it's all gone now. And I don't know. I mean, there was a period of time where, God, and this is going back to like 2010 and beyond. Like all my favorite places started closing, just favorite pubs, favorite restaurant. And they'd all close because they couldn't afford the rent anymore. And something would come in, and the thing that would replace it would be like a frozen yogurt place or like a designer clothes place in my old neighborhood in the West Village. And it just got to the point anymore where I just became desensitized to it, where I'd be heading into the city to go to a place, like me and my friends would say we'd go to a concert or something like that, and we'd always go to like this place afterwards. And then we'd go, and it was closed. And I don't mean closed for the night. I mean closed. I mean like sawdust on the floor. Like it was, and then there was a couple of times where that was a huge gut punch, and then it just became normal. Like, yeah, of course this place is closed. I haven't been there in a year. I don't expect it to still be there because it was good. There's very few places like that. In fact, I can't think of one off the top of my head that's like a go-to place where it's like a happy place where you've gone to for years. And you can go back there at any point, and you can be like, yeah, I've had a lot of good times there. There's a couple of places maybe I can think of, but the heavy hitters are gone. Oh, San Francisco's another. I mean, San Francisco's been bad for a long time. I used to go to San Francisco quite a bit because I have family in San Francisco. Yeah, that's the thing about big cities. It's just that's why I look at Florida as like, I'm jealous of Garrett. Garrett sends me pictures of Orlando where he is, and I'm like, man, that looks great. Sign me up. And if my dad wasn't a factor, I'd be somewhere else. I wouldn't be where I am. And that's it. You just give up at a certain point. You get to a certain age. I'm going to be 50 in February, which is weird. I don't feel it. I don't feel like I look it. But I'm going to be 50, and I think you get to a certain age, and your priorities change. You know, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was like, oh, I can't wait to live in New York City and just be a New York City person. And then I lived in New York City, and it was fine. I'm not going to lie. I had some great times, and I loved all the options of New York City. I loved waking up on a Sunday and just like, you can just do anything you want. You wake up in New York City, I can go to a museum, I can go to Central Park, I can go to my favorite pub and have brunch and have Bloody Marys. I can meet up with my friends and we could do this. I don't have to worry about taking a train. I am here. I am in the thick of it. I wake up in the city. I go to sleep in the city. But that changed. Now I wouldn't want to live in the city for anything. Patsy says, I'm so sick of winters in New York. Are you really? Because I feel like the winters in New York have gotten a lot tamer over the years. Oh, John, you're in Orlando too? Yeah, Garrett says he's never leaving. And by the way, what I like about Orlando is it's central. You don't get hit with the crazy storms that you do when you're coastal in Florida. At least, you know, I know a couple of people in Orlando, Garrett included. Mimi says, I thought TomB was in his late 30s, early 40s. Okay, well, I don't care. I think it's weird when guys are into like, oh, I hope I look, you know, like if somebody ever asks a guy a question and the guy goes, oh, how old do I look? I'm sorry, to quote Perry, that's gay. You know, I'll own my age. But anyway, yeah, I think the New York winters have been very mild. I didn't even wear a coat. There's one day last year that I wore a coat, and it was to my mother's funeral. My mother's funeral was February. It was like the first Friday of February. It was the coldest day of the year. It was like literally zero. So that's the only time I broke out the coat. Other than that, it was fine. You know, sweater. I have like one or two sweaters that I rotate. You know. TomB, I finally watched the two Dons, and you look so different, but I think you look better now. That's very nice of you to say. I think I look way better then. I was definitely in a good zone then. But you know, I'm doing the best I can. I do. It's hard because I put on so much weight. Once the pandemic hit, I just stopped caring. So I got a lot to work on. But you know, I do training twice a week with a trainer, and I try to work in 2 extra gym days. But it's all comes down to diet. I like having a good time too much. I like eating and I like drinking. You know, not all the time, but that's really what if I can cut those 2 things out. You know, and I'm drinking a lot less. But you know, it's shitty food. Not even like fast food, but like, you know, also like eating like once a day is kind of like what I've done for a while. I'm trying to get off that, but that's terrible too because you're eating once a day, but then you're starving when you're eating, and then you're eating like, you know, whatever. Perry looks 20 years older than you easily. Well, trying to get Perry and be decent shape too. Summer is the worst in New York. I love New York fall and winter. I like summer in New York. I like going to the beach. You know, I haven't been to the beach in 2 years. I do like going to the beach. Although I will say, tomorrow and Wednesday, I have my eye on it because my dad and I usually go to the beach once a year. We haven't done it in like 2 years. He couldn't do it last year because he was just taking care of. He couldn't leave my mother alone. But tomorrow's not going to happen because of work. But I'm trying to work out Wednesday to see if I can play a little bit of hooky and maybe go to the beach on Wednesday. I think it's going to be the absolute last summer-like day in New York. And sometimes you get lucky with that deep, you know, you can get into October and get a little bit of like summer days. It's supposed to be like 83 and sunny on Wednesday. And I might see if I can do that, if I can convince my dad to go. Because he's in a place right now where he doesn't really care. He's like, whatever. But I really push the issue. I think Perry can turn it around. I basically, so here's the deal. So Perry, I really wanted to get him into going to the gym, and he needs a personal trainer, like I do. It's Wavy G says, "TomB, I like eating and drinking too. I'm bad." Yeah, look, I like it. I like there's a pub that I go to that has great bar food. I'm a sucker for good bar food. They do a killer Reuben at this place, and I will have a Reuben with extra cheese and like a beer with it. And I know it's terrible, but goddamn, I work hard, and sometimes I want that every now and again. Every now and again. Every now and again. But anyway, I want Perry to get a personal trainer, and then on top of that, again, Perry bows to authority. He's not going to listen. I'm an idiot, according to Perry, but Perry bows to authority, and get him a nutritionist and maybe put him on some kind of plan, because he is, look, and I'm not one to talk. I look at myself sometimes when I see I was getting screenshots for the auction, and I was like, good Lord, Tom, get it together. But I'm trying. I think I look better now than I did at TomB week 1. At least I'll say that. TomB, will you please? Sorry, I missed that. Sometimes these go by too fast. Oh, TomB, will you please tell me if Mole is an act back then? I don't want to ask anything else about them. What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean. Nate says, I haven't had a good Reuben in a while. I'm a sucker for a good Reuben. I judge a diner by how well they do their Reuben. John Russo, do I remember Genevieve's Drugs? Yeah, I used to work at Genevieve's Drugs. Yeah, not the Genevieve's Mafia family. Yeah, now they're all like Rite Aids. Former Genevieve's Drugs. I still have... I found when I was cleaning out my mom's stuff, like she had an old Genevieve's bag, like a Genevieve's like plastic bag, and I kept it for sentimental reasons. I don't know why. TomB week 3 has to be in Florida. I don't know if that counts though as a TomB week. I think TomB week has to be at Perry's. There's a slight chance that I might go out there for New Year's Eve, because I kind of have to. So like this place in Orange County that is kind of related to my work. I kind of have to go out there very early January. So I was actually literally just today, I was thinking, oh, maybe I can go out for Perry. Maybe I can go out early and go do New Year's Eve at Perry's. Maybe we could try something 24 hours shenanigans. And then we take a couple of weeks off after New Year's. So, and I was thinking of me, I have big ideas, because a friend of mine has like this pass thing for Disneyland. Not that I need a pass, I could probably save up for it, but I would really like to take Teddy to Disneyland before he gets too old. So I was thinking about it, not anywhere near a thing. Airbnb in Florida, old boys. Yeah, that's the plan. I'd love to do that. I would love to do an Airbnb in Florida with everybody. And also it makes sense because Jim and Garrett are already in Florida. So that means we don't have to, spend money on airfare. Anyway, I forget what I was talking about prior to that. Oh, me eating. Oh, Mole bears a striking resemblance to the comedian Tony Barbieri. That's all I'm going to say. Well, NF, you're very smart. Oh, by the way, I think talk shows come back tonight. What do you guys listen to this for? You could be watching Jimmy Kimmel Live or Jimmy Fallon or any of the other. I think they're all back. Thank God. The world breathes a sigh of relief that all the talk shows have come back. Vincent, I have to turn in for the night, Tom, but you are a guardian angel for someone who doesn't deserve your protection. Thank you. He deserves it. It's hard to see nights like tonight where he's just kind of a miserable bastard. But round trip ticket, $20 to Orlando from Tampa. That's not bad. Oh, the way Mole acted was an inaccurate. I have such tremendous respect for Mole that I don't. That's the one thing that I really don't like peeling the curtain back. So I'm not going to really ever talk anything about what Mole's like, or this or that, or behind. I just have I really learned a lot from him. Just breathing the same air as him, and just talking to him. Gave me a lot of good advice about just even improv, and just anything, relating to how things are run. I really respect him tremendously. So forgive me for not. I don't want to. If you ask me a question about like peeling back some kind of layer, that's one area where I really hesitate, because he takes his craft so seriously, and that I would never speak. I don't know what am I trying to say. I would never want to reveal any magic secrets where he's concerned, because of how brilliant he is, and that's it. I have a great deal of respect for him, and I'll leave it at that. Hilarious that I worked at Genevieve's. My aunt is married to one of the Genevieve sons. They sold the company to Eckert in the late 90s, which is sold to CBS. Yeah, there's a whole row of places. The one that I worked at, there was like, it was like the row of like Long Island places that are gone now. There was like Wall Bombs, the supermarket, Genevieve's, and there was another place that's like long gone. Break kayfabe. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I don't want to break kayfabe where Mole is concerned. But extremely, extremely talented. Yeah, anyway, as I was talking about a Reuben, I would murder a Reuben right now, like, because I didn't eat dinner. A lot of these streams kind of come up. Key Food's still around. There's a Key Food near me. Oh man, yeah. I'm not. I don't normally eat this late, but yeah. I could. That's what I have to. When I was in really good shape, like back pre-pandemic, like let's say 2017, 2018, right around there, and I actually did something. I'm trying to get back into this because it actually worked. And I don't know if it was like a placebo effect, but Perry always talked about bulletproof coffee, and I tried it when I was like really trying to lose weight, because I'm not a person, if you see me, I'm not a person that carries extra weight well. There are some people that can just be heavy, or they could be overweight or whatever, and they distribute it well. I don't. It goes to me, I'm just a skinny Irish dude, and if I have extra weight, I'm just a fat skinny guy with a beer gut and extra weight in the face, but it doesn't distribute anywhere else. So I got to be real careful, and then when I get lazy and go off the reservation, it takes forever to course correct. But when I was doing that, I was doing bulletproof coffee in the morning, which is again, I've talked about it on the air with Perry. It's a meal replacement. And that's what it was. I would do that in the morning, and it would almost be like a pre-workout shake, and I'd go to the gym, and then I'd have lunch, like a reasonable lunch, nothing carby, like even like tuna salad from a deli or something like that, just eat it out of the thing, and then have like a reasonable dinner. And then once a week have like a cheat, bullshit cheat thing. Frank says, "Oh, you went to the restaurant. They invented the Reuben in Omaha. It wasn't great, and I love Reubens. Yeah, it's bad when you get a bad Reuben. I also don't like open face Reubens. I like a closed face Reuben. But yeah, COVID just kind of just blew it off the hinges, because, I lost my job. The world seemed like it was coming to an end." And there was a lot of stress because I had to take care of Perry and everything. And I was just like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to... And then all the gyms closed. Even the gym in my building where my apartment was, even that closed. Wavy G, can we get Tony, a.k.a. Mole, on the stream? F Kimmel and F Barris. I would love Mole. I would too. Maybe. I think if Kimmel ever retires and that goes away, maybe. I think that's, I don't know. I would love that. I don't know if it's just me, but watching some old Big Three stuff, it seems like Don actually didn't like Perry. Yes, that was true. The way he talked to Perry felt way more mean-spirited than I remember. Yeah, I mean, without getting too into that, you're right. And I can never... I used to love Big Three. I can never... I can't ever listen... I can't even watch Windy City Eat at this point, which is a shame because it's still technically my favorite comedy. Later says, my face looks better with weight on it. Okay, well, varying opinions. At what point did I feel responsible for Perry's well-being? That's a great question. It was before he lost his disability, actually. It just sucks because he just doesn't have any allies in his life. Like, his family are really, this whole Kenny thing on the stream, it's funny and everything like that, but the guy really is a piece of crap. He really is. And it sucks that Perry had to be stuck with that lot. So I don't know. I realize at a certain point that I'm at least going to have Perry for the rest of my life, no matter what, sink or swim. I still like Kimmel for giving Perry his first platform. Mole's a comedy, a genius. Barris, though. Yeah, I agree with that. Kimmel, I may say things sometimes like Kimmel, whatever, but yeah, Kimmel did give him a platform. Kimmel did do a lot behind the stream. I just wish he would have done a little bit more when shit hit the fan. I will say this about Kimmel. So since it came up, back when the pandemic was like a real thing, like when it was like end of the world stuff. I'm talking like March 2020, like where everything shut down, and it was scary for more than one reason. I was in a weird position because my girlfriend at the time, I had 2 kids, and they basically moved in with me during the pandemic, and now for various reasons, and I'm now responsible for other people other than myself. I'm used to only taking care of myself, and then of course Perry, and for other reasons. But it got really scary where you gotta pay real bills. I didn't have an income coming in. I had a decent savings. I had stocks and stuff like that. But you can't bleed through all that because eventually you're gonna get in trouble, which I did. But it got to the point where I knew Perry had to be monetized in some way, and I wasn't gonna wait around. Because the thing with Don was that he always, and still does, consider Perry like his property, and credit where it's due. He did discover Perry and everything like that, absolutely, no question there. But like he used to love, like, anytime there was a break in things, like he used to really get off on like withholding Perry from the audience. Like, he didn't want Perry on social media. He didn't want Perry doing anything unless he was directly involved. And during that time, they were doing podcasts like once a month, and but it wasn't putting any food on the table for Perry, and things are getting really bad. And forgive me if I've said this before, I probably have, but I was thinking of ways to monetize him a little bit. Before this came about, PCL, but like I was thinking like Patreon, maybe we could post some, have everybody has a Patreon. And at the time I would pitch that to Don, and he'd be like, and Don would be like, no fucking way. No fucking way. No fucking way we're not doing that. Well, what about getting Perry on Cameo? That would do something. Cameo. No fucking way. No fucking way. No, that's not going to happen. Fuck him. And then eventually Jimmy said something. And this was during the pandemic. I don't even know if Jimmy Kimmel Live was on the air. This was like May of like 2020. And then because again, Jimmy is the guy that's like, all these people that work for Jimmy, they all like, they they all bow down to him, you know, because he's the boss, obviously, and what he says goes. And he made the declaration, Perry should be on Cameo. Perry needs to be on Cameo. And he said that to Don. And then Don called me. He's like, so I was talking to Jimmy, and Jimmy thinks that Perry needs to be on Cameo. And I could tell, like, he's saying that with gritted teeth, but he hated it. But that was my opener. I was like, oh, okay, well, now it's okay. Which is ridiculous when you really think about it. Why the fuck do I have to beg for Perry to make his own, you know, way? You know, everybody else that worked with Big Three, they were okay. Like, you know, they all had jobs with Kimmel. They could do it. So why can't Perry? Why can't Perry do his own solo thing and then also do Big Three stuff, but just do his own solo thing? So anyway, but Jimmy, now just forget about anything I've ever said about it. Now it's Jimmy's idea. Oh, well, Jimmy's idea. Oh, absolutely. So let's get it done. So I got it done. Thanks. Shout out to a friend of mine, Mark, who's a fan of the stream. Now he actually helped get Perry on Cameo, because Cameo had all these things where you have to have X amount of followers on Twitter to get on Cameo. But he got on Cameo, and when he first went on Cameo, it was like a boom. Why couldn't Perry just do Cameo regardless of Don? Did Don have control over his bank account or something? No, absolutely not. It was just that's the way it was. You lived in fear, like, you know, of, you know, you didn't want to do anything that Don would get pissed off, because you know, Perry's his property. And even though things are really bad, and I was just like, listen, I can't do this anymore. I am not making any revenue right now. I am literally paying my bills off of my savings, and then I'm dipping into accounts, you know, savings accounts and, like, you know, money market accounts, you know, without getting into all the ins and outs of it, that I shouldn't have to, because, you know, so F this. So then Perry got on Cameo, and it was actually pretty, like, it was an explosion. When Perry went on Cameo, this is June 2020, he goes on Cameo the first time. He had like 200, I mean, I'm talking maybe just shy of 200 in the first week alone. It was, maybe maybe that's an exaggeration, but it was a lot. It like, we were inundated, and I had to help him do it. Now he's very self-sufficient. Now he does cameos on his own. But back then I had to help him, you know, facilitate it. Like, he would, like, print them out and stuff. This is very early on. But it helped, you know, and then I forget what, I think it was like $50 or $60 at the time. And and people loved, and that's really kind of what the genesis of PCL was, or at least not even PCL, but like him getting on, doing something like this, was that it was just so obvious that people just wanted to interact with Perry. That's what they wanted. And now this wall was removed. You know, there was always a wall. Like, if you couldn't interact with Perry because you had to go through all these people. And I was always guilty of that, because I played the bad guy, where, like, and I feel really bad because there's things I turned down for Perry, like TV. He was on that show Hot Topic, and I remember they asked to have him back, and this was like years. And I went to Don. I said, hey, you know, Hot Topic wants Perry. No, fuck them. No, we're doing our thing now. He's not going on there. And I, you know, good soldier that I was, I talked to the guy that wanted Perry. I was like, oh no, you know, we're doing this thing now, and he's not available. But when I think back at that, I was like, man, that sucks. Like, what a shitty thing to do. You're, like, literally taking money out of his pocket because you want them all to yourself, but yet you're not generating a revenue for him. Which you know, it became the whole thing. So anyway, without getting too much in the weeds of this, so Cameo was very successful. It bailed out the boat a little bit. It kept the boat from sinking because he was getting a steady stream on that. It wasn't like a godsend, you know, because it's not going to cover everything, but it gave him a little bit of an extra stream, you know, for lack of a better word. And then like, you know, towards, I think, October of 2020, then it was like he was doing OnlyFans, and that was like a backdoor into streaming, because it was like, you know, behind a paywall. I didn't think it would piss off Don or anybody. And at that point, I wasn't asking permission. That kind of backdoored in because it was kind of a storyline on the podcast. It's like, oh, isn't it fun? Does Don still contact me, John? No. That ship has sailed and sunk a long time ago. Why is he so intimidating? I'm not intimidated by him. I've never been intimidated by him. He maybe exudes that. But, and Jim says, what little revenue Perry would generate through Big 3, Don would withhold it from him in order to manipulate him on top of the splitting the $10 shout-outs. Yeah, and that was always bullshit. Why are they splitting $10 shout-outs with Perry? They all have jobs. Like, why isn't Perry getting 100% of that? D-Bag, so Perry still thinks you got abducted and raped by a JQA henchman. Yeah, I guess, but it doesn't go up in conversation too much. But anyway, so we backdoored into OnlyFans because OnlyFans was kind of a storyline, and it was funny that Perry thought it was only for fans. And I would talk to Mole about it, and I was like, this is low-key a good thing for Perry because people are legit signing up for this. This isn't just a joke. Like people, like he went on a live stream and people were paying money to interact with him. This is there's something here, and Mole loved it. Guess who didn't love it? And then I've said this before, but Scott, who's very behind the scenes, he's executive producer PCL, godfather of PCL. He's the one who was like, all right, F this OnlyFans stuff. Like that's when he got into. I had known him prior to that, but he got in touch with me. He's like, no. This is bigger than this. You got to go. He's got to go on Twitch, and it was Twitch before YouTube. And I was very hesitant about that because I knew I was going to get shit, and I was beyond this point of asking permission. I wasn't going to go to Don and be like, so yeah, this thing on OnlyFans is going really good. So what do you think of Perry streaming on Twitch? Because I know the answer would be like, no fucking way. Fuck that. No fucking way. No fucking way. Maybe me, Mo, and Perry can do something on my thing, and maybe I could throw him a few. But that's what would happen. So I was beyond. I was done asking permission. Asking permission for Perry to make his own living. By the way, I wasn't doing that anymore. So it just happened. We just did it, and I knew there was going to be some fallout from it, and there was. But there was no denying that it was good. It was good for Perry, and it was also good for Big 3 at the time because it was generating a new audience. And Mole saw that. Jimmy saw that. Don, not so much. And that's where it went from there. And that's where I get annoyed when people like, Big 3 loyalists are like, Tom ruined the Big 3, which you have no idea how much of a soldier I was for that and how much I loved it so much and really, really just did everything to make it work. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal like I'm some saint and I should have a statue or whatever. I'm not. But that's how it was, and, there was a lot of clashes. Don and Mole hated each other. I've said that before. Hated each other. And they'd always blame things on Perry, like, oh, the podcast is ending because Perry, blah, blah, blah. No, it was never Perry. It was always like they just couldn't get along, And I can go a whole thing about that, but I'm not going to. But anyway, so PCL takes off, Perry does his own thing, and both are happening simultaneously for a while. Jim says it right there. We bent over backwards to accommodate Big 3 in the beginning. They would call in, and they didn't quite necessarily get the flow of a live stream. Perry still did the monthly podcast. We plugged their stuff, and I was more than happy to do both. More than happy, but Don didn't like Perry doing anything, without him, or Perry getting laughs on any way. Perry getting laughs without his assistance. So yeah, just the way it is. Anyway, I don't know how I got into those weeds, but. Yeah, I try to be not say because and by the way, I don't mean to say like Don's the worst person in the world, blah 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 blah. I had plenty of good times working with him, some really great memories, and I actually learned a lot from him too. when he wasn't being completely batshit crazy. So I'd rather leave it at that. You know, and there's obviously a lot of bad blood there, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. John, why did Don have authority on what Perry couldn't do? Well, like I said, he considered him his possession. He didn't look at him as a human being. He looked at him as his. He didn't like it when anybody... And there was a lot of people that were coming into Perry's life to try to do this or that. Like that guy Salvador, and I'm talking to people know, you know, who that is. You know, there were legitimate people that were like bad. Can I elaborate on why Don and Mo hate each other? They're just different people. You know, Mo's a guy with a family. Okay, I'll give you a good example. I can give you many examples. I'll give you an example. So they would record the Big Three podcasts on either, sometimes it was a Friday evening or it'd be a Sunday evening. Mainly it was Fridays. Sometimes it would be Sundays. And Don's a very different lifestyle. Don stays up all night. I'll get on camera eventually. When I get to my new setup, I'll get on camera. I promise. It's not going to happen now. So Don wouldn't wake up until like 3 p.m. And by the way, on Friday, sometimes it was after Kimmel. Let me give you an example on a Sunday. That's easier. So he'd wake up around 3 o'clock. And he'd schedule the podcast taping for around 4 o'clock. So Perry, by the way, Perry will get there early, whatever. They would just put Perry on the roof of Don's building. I'm talking like when they were doing it in Don's apartment. I wasn't really involved. I wasn't involved, period, when they first started doing the podcast at Adam Carolla's place. By the time I came in, they were doing it at Don's place. And so Perry would come in, and Perry would just sit there with his own thoughts on the roof, not being paid. But Mo would come, and Mo needed to be out by a certain time because, you know, he needed to have dinner with his family. You know, he works hard during the week. You know, I don't think people realize how hard a writer works that's on like a late night talk show where you got to be up at like 6 a.m. You're writing jokes all morning until noon, then you're doing production and stuff like that. So your weekends are precious. So, but he's doing, and nobody's getting paid. So he's showing up and like, he shows up at Don's place to do the show, and Don's like barely waking up. He's like just in the shower. And Mole's ready to go. He's ready to do the show, and he's sitting in there in the studio, and like, Don's place is filthy. It's actually worse than Perry's, if you can believe that. It's just, I'll give you a quick example. I went on the show once, and when there was a lollipop thing that was a popular gimmick, the DRPs, right? And somebody gave me a DRP, took it out of the wrapper, put it in my mouth for a little bit. Perry ripped it out, whatever, and then it was left on the desk. I came into that studio 2 years after the fact, and that same lollipop was sitting on the desk, covered in hairs and dust. I don't even think Perry would leave that. That just paints a picture. So Mole's sitting in there, and he's just like, and he could be sitting in like some damp thing. Like the studio is not very well kept. Let's just put it that way. And he's just sitting there, stewing. That he's got to wait. He gets there ready to go, and he's sitting there waiting like an hour sometimes more. And then, you know, then they finally get things together, and you could hear it. Like sometimes on the show, on the podcast, you could hear, like when Mole is like, you know, complaining about a long shot or whatever. He's already been there like a long time, and he has to get back to his family for dinner or something like that, and it's just like. So there was that conflict there, just two different lifestyles, and one didn't understand the other. And also Don I'm not talking out of school, he's crazy. Like he really is crazy. Like I remember being in the car with him one time, the first time I met him, and we were driving to Kimmel or whatever. It was like the windy weekend or something like that. And his alleged girlfriend calls in on the phone, and he just starts screaming at her, like calling her the C word and this and that. And I thought it was a bit. And like all the times he would yell on the podcast, I thought that was a bit, but man, that wasn't a bit. And I just remember he screams and yells and hangs up the phone. And it's just like, normally when something like that happens, you're in an awkward position. The other guy goes like, hey, sorry about that. That was nothing. I was just, we were just kidding around. He didn't say anything. And it just drove us in the most awkward silence ever. And that's when I knew, like, okay, this guy's a little crazy. So there's that, and it's just like a lot of, and also there's a huge back history between the two of them that goes way well before that, talking 20 plus years. So yeah, like he would blame, like there would be all this like back and forth, like, oh, Mole threw a party once and didn't invite me, and then back and forth, and it was just like all this old stuff that would come up. Mole would suck it up more than Don. But then Don also hated Mole because Mole got all the attention. Mole got all the praise from the fans. Oh my God, Mole was so funny. Mole, and he is. But he hated it. He hated the attention. And that's why eventually where he stopped even calling it the Big Three Podcast. He wanted to call it simply Don, the podcast, because he didn't want to give Mole any credit by calling it the Big Three Podcast, because he put all this money into turning his living room into a podcast studio, and Mole didn't help at all, and so many things. I could be here all night talking about it. I really could. I don't want to go down that road, as Perry would say, but that's, little things like that where it's just and even when you listen to, like, take an episode, they, to both their credit, they both worked on their own bits separately, and you couldn't really tell. There's like, for instance, like Mole would have, the JQA stuff and everything, and the songs and everything like that. And he'd work really, he'd work really hard, and Don would get mad because he wouldn't get the script for a while, like the script to the JQA call or something like that. And he'd get mad because Don wasn't the greatest at improvising, whereas Mole was a master. And then Don's thing was Hugh A. Craig. Like, that was his concept and his idea. And there were different people that did Hugh A. Craig, but that was his thing. And he would work on the Hugh A. Craig letter. And I would help out with it, of course, when I got involved, but it would be mainly him. And so that was his bit, and then Mole had his bit, and they both kind of worked together, and then maybe there'd be other bits that, like, Mole would pitch that they'd work on, but it would be it basically is two people separately working their own stuff, and then they get mad at they try to one-up each other, and of course Mole was a master at that, where he was very good at, like, taking something and giving a killer line, and then Don would try to do it and it wouldn't land as well, and he'd get mad or whatever. Anyway, that's what I mean, where if you ask, like, what they just didn't like each other, and they'd suck it up for the greater good. But there were times where it was just really bad, like where it was like screaming matches on the phone. Sometimes I'd be a referee, and it would just be not fun anymore. Anyway, what do I think of the Hamptons? I've never been to the Hamptons. I'm not a Hamptons guy. I've never been to the Hamptons. Anyway, I could be here all night talking about that stuff. I really don't. And I know a lot of people that watch PCL probably don't even have any idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, Mole's bits are better because he's a writer. And he's really smart. My favorite JQA song, oh boy, that's a tough one. I began to start hating the ones where I was mentioned. But, man, there were some epics. I like Asses to Asses, which is a low-key one. From Bowie's Ashes to Ashes, because there was a period of time where we were just doing best of shows, because after with the Windy Weekend, there was like, we're ending the show until somebody can inject. It was always like, somebody please help me. Somebody please come knock on my door and give me money. It was never like a hustle, like let's go out and do this. Let's go out and get this person. And they had a huge fight leading up right before the Windy Weekend. And that's when the podcast stopped. They blamed Perry, but Perry wasn't the reason. Mole and Don were not talking at all. And it was over, and they'd already announced this thing called the Windy Weekend, where it was the celebration of 10 years. That's 10 years ago. Jesus, that's 10 years ago. Because now it's the 20th anniversary in Windy City. Back then it was the 10th year anniversary. So it just stopped. And so anyway, to keep things going, I suggested, hey, let's do some best of shows. And I just called together like, hey, let's do best of this, best of Perry Scams, best of this. And man, we bled those best ofs to death. Like I was, and I put them together and everything like that. But there was a couple of best ofs that had some original content, and one of them was JQA called in and did Asses to Asses, and I really like that. I also like Take Me to Javaho Church, which was the I forget the guy, Robin Thicke. Take me to church, but it was like Take Me to Javaho Church, and. Do you remember the Big Three podcast was another great one. A lot of them were just wasted on like Simply Don episodes that nobody listened to. You'd see the numbers, like no one's listening to this, but this is great. So, but yeah, there were some real good ones. It got to a point where there was also a point where when we were doing the pilot that we were actually thinking about like this might go to a TV thing or whatever. So he was deliberately writing songs that were free license, and there's not many of those. And it was just like, there was that song Mammy, like Mammy, like it was a big like Step and Fetch It type song, and he sang it to Tommy, like Tommy, how I love you, and it was just like really digging the trenches for what's a song that's completely copyright free. But he was brilliant. He was fucking brilliant. Really fucking brilliant. Like just extremely talented. And I and to be fair, like listen, like I'm saying all this shit and I can talk shit sometimes or whatever, but I was not perfect either. I probably should have handled the whole PCL transition differently. Not that I was going to sit and ask for permission for Perry to do it, but I could have, I just did it at a certain point. Like, yeah, Perry's doing this Thanksgiving stream. I mean, I didn't say like, hey, Perry's doing this Thanksgiving stream. Are you okay with it? Because I was done. I was really done asking if this was okay. Because I don't care. I'm sinking here, and something's got to give. But there's some conversations that were had after that I could have handled better, and I didn't. But I had a lot, again, that long fuse was kind of burnt out, and that's what it is. So I don't ever want to portray myself as some saint or like some hero or an angel with wings that came in and did this or that. I'm a human being, and I made plenty of mistakes and probably handled myself wrong in various scenarios. But if you were to say to me, do I regret anything? I don't. I'm glad things played out. My only regret is not starting this sooner. I really wish we would have launched PCL like right when the pandemic hit. I think that would have been the perfect time for it. Can I play the clip of he doesn't care that Perry has a disability anymore? I don't see any point in playing that, but I do have it. The 2 calls with Trump and Perry were epic. Yeah, that was fun to put together. That was a lot of work. There was a third one that I never released. I gotta find it somewhere. Perry didn't necessarily. It wasn't as good as the first 2. Perry didn't really go for it the way he went for on the first 2 calls. Hey, Georgia. Good morning. Um, so yeah, that's out. That's something I remember trying to like maybe, I don't know, try it again, and it just by that point it kind of that shipped itself. I don't know where it is, Fat Chatty. If you're talking about the Trump thing, I'd have to really find it. I did find there was this call one. It's funny. We really go through the history of things that happened with Perry in the timeline. There's the thing that kind of triggered everything with Perry losing a lot of money, where something happened on his PayPal where this person sent him a request for money, but it made it look like he was sending Perry money, and Perry accepted it and drained. I think I talked about that recently. Do I do the video editing for the Hannity vids? No, that was Rafe. Rafe, who is now our designer and is working on stuff behind the scenes and does all the merch and stuff. That was him. I could never do anything like that. I'm a very basic editor. I'm lucky I can edit like streams and like cut his bathroom breaks. Like the good editor, Garrett's a far better editor than me, and anything that requires special effects, forget about it. So no, I can't do that. But yeah, so anyway, I found something. I'm not going to play it, but I was looking for something specific. I was looking for something else around that time, and I came across this call where I had with Perry, and then my phone at the time was always set to record calls, so I even have calls with my mom and stuff, which I haven't really played in a while. But so I would catch something, and then I got on the phone with Don after, and I was telling him how this PayPal thing happened. This is before the whole disability stuff happened, and it was interesting. I just played it for a little bit, and I was telling him what happened, and Don's concern was that he didn't want Jimmy to find out, because he didn't want anybody to feel bad for Perry. And I was saying on the phone, I was like, "Hey, listen, I gotta maybe give him a couple $100 to float him," and he was just like, "Yeah, well, good luck with that." Dead fish mood, but hot tub sounds good. Yeah, look, I think if you did a best of PCL from tonight's stream, it would be a really good best of. Cut out his dead fish stuff. He had a couple of really funny blow ups, and the ending I think was great. And I think you'd have, again, this is a good best of stream. Watching it live, I think he had some problems. What happened to me was a transfer request, and it was just one click and sent it. Yeah, I think PayPal's gotten better with that, but yeah, that was a scam going on. And at the time, I thought a fan did it, but that turned out not to be the case. Perry lost, I don't know, a few $1,000s. Everything he had in the account was just completely wiped, and it wasn't easy to rectify that. Yeah, I have that somewhere. I'm not gonna play. I don't want to. I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into playing that though. I really don't. The Officer Lawrence appearances were both awesome. He's great at playing off Perry and improvising. I agree. Officer Lawrence is amazing. A great new character unlocked on PCL. Did Perry really send the fake Danica Patrick $1,000? Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, but Perry losing that money on PayPal really led us to where we are today. To be honest with you, because that was the first time where I really had to dive in and help him out financially. Did I ever end up watching The Strangers? No, but I will at some point. I have not watched anything new in a long time. The Jimmy Walker clip I played last Monday was great. Yeah, I love Jimmy Walker. Somebody wrote to me and said that they watched the full interview with Jimmy Walker because it's on YouTube if you look for it. Fascinating guy. Yeah, really, really good. Brilliant. Really brilliant. It's too bad that he got so typecast because he really is an asset both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Perry needs to wear the KFC bucket again. You know, I think we tried that again. It just didn't have that same. There was something about that original KFC bucket that was so great. You know, I don't know. Sometimes you can't go back to some things. Some bits worked, and you just can't go back to it. You know what I mean? You got to leave it where it was. But I don't know. Yeah, if he gets he hasn't had a bucket of fried chicken in a while. Did the comments queue go way up? Yeah, I noticed we were done with comments. We were done with tip comments. And then all of a sudden, once I couldn't get to them fast enough. Once people saw that there was another guy in the hot tub with Perry. Happy Day says, I wasn't that interested in PCL until I noticed how Perry thought tips from Trump were real, and then I thought, this is good. This is going somewhere. Yeah, that's a big part of it, obviously. Lieutenant Lascivia says, I feel like Hollywood writers are really shit these days. Everything coming out sucks. Yeah, I feel that way, and then I feel just like an old man shouting to the sky. You know, that everything sucks. That's why I didn't care. I still don't care about the writer's strike or the actor's strike. It doesn't affect me. I don't watch any new content. You know, I don't watch any shows that are nothing I watch is affected. I mean, what am I watching? I'm watching Mannix on Amazon Prime, and old Star Trek on Pluto with commercials, and Price is Right with Bob Barker. Will I consider bringing back Bozo for Halloween? No, I really this is the deal. My opinions really don't matter at the end of the day. I will always set the sales of PCL to the wins and whims of you guys. If you guys want to send Perry Bozo, go ahead. I think Bozo had its thing. It had a beginning and a middle and an end, and I am not really, I feel the same way about 92 stuff, of course, but I felt Bozo had its day, but then sometimes at PCL things disappear for a while. It's like I like when deliveries stop for a while, and then all of a sudden they'll come back and it'll be great. You know what I mean? Like sometimes things need to disappear for a while and take a little breather and then come back and reboot itself a little bit. But that's just me. I mean, look, that's what people say. Like I sometimes hear people complain about things with the stream. Where like, oh, this was funny when this character was writing in comments. It's like, well, if you like it so much, why don't you do it? Nobody has ownership of a thing. I think the highest compliment is when once in a while I'll send in my own tip comments, or Jim does. Jim will send in tip comments, and we'll do whatever, and then we take it as a high compliment when somebody else takes that over. Like Bruce Willis, like the first person who sent in dingy dingy chingy chingy, and then somebody else did it, and then somebody else did it. That's what PCL is about. And I think it's a high compliment. I very rarely hear that somebody says, "Oh no, somebody took over my bit and they ruined it," or something like that. And it's very rare. Most of the time, I look at it, if you send in a comment and it's from, I don't know, I'm going to make something up, Gary Coleman or whatever, and then it turns into a thing, and Perry's yelling at Gary Coleman, and then somebody else does it. I don't know. I think that's a compliment. But there's other times though where people there's different Amy's. And there's definitely the OG Amy who comes and goes as far as the stream goes, and you could always tell when it's OG Amy. I could always tell. I'm like, I get excited, and I'm like, oh, that's real Amy. That's Amy. You could tell. And then there's other people that submit as like Hot Amy or Amy this, and it's not. It's different. It's not all the same. You could just tell it's somebody different doing it, and it's not that it's better or worse. It's just different, and I kind of love that about PCL. NF says, I was honored to hear someone else mention the Governmental Institute for the Determination of Sexuality tonight. Yeah, right, exactly. Like you don't, like, that's a great bit. Like, that's a straight up great bit. And the fact that somebody else values it that much, you know, it's great. Yeah, like all the Taliban thing, that's a great example, the Taliban. Albertson's Meat Man is another great example. It's not, you know, it's different people doing it. And so he goes, you better stop ruining Grandma Robin's nasty roadkill C-word on me. Jack goes, yeah, you know, but I don't know. I think, look, everything's free. Everything's free reign. Carl Nelson's still number one. You know, whenever Perry talks about, because Happy Days, he says Carl Nelson was Public Enemy number one for a while. There's a few people that Perry mentions when we're off, you know, when we're just talking, and I'll just be like, hey, Perry, you know, you got to realize that this is kind of your job. You have a very easy job. You got to, you know, you're doing pretty good for yourself. I always say to him, like, think about where you were 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you were begging me for $10 to buy like some fruit from Trader Joe's. Look where you are now. You're going out to Ruth Chris Steakhouse. You're doing this and that. You know, whatever you need to shop for, you can get it. And he's like, yeah, I know, but that fucking, like, Carl Nelson, every time that Carl Nelson is the top shelf number one with a bullet, and maybe it's just an easy name for him to remember, whatever it is. But he's number one. He's just number one. There's people that have gone in and out of that, like where he's mentioned XYZ's person's name, and it'll last for a while. But like, well, right now it's West Most. West Most is number one off the. He hates West Most, but Carl Nelson is evergreen as far as PCL goes. He's just evergreen. He's just always going to, you know, be in Perry's mind. There's some times where you penetrate Perry's mind through repetition. You know, it's like his mother teaching him how to balance a paycheck and not his checkbook. Like, he's you know, he definitely has issues of short-term memory, so you really got to penetrate it, and Carl Nelson penetrated it. You know, that's the way it is. Georgia, do I think Perry has become ungrateful since he's had money? Yes, of course, obviously. D-Bag says, I make good money, but I've never been to Ruth Chris either. I want to try that tomahawk ribeye. It's good. I've only been to Ruth Chris when I've had a great gift card, and I've had a gift card to Ruth Chris a couple times in my life. The last Christmas, we had some gift cards, and we all went separately. It's good. It's not that. Look, if you can go to Ruth Chris, if you don't order booze, you know, or like go crazy with appetizers, yeah, it's not that bad. You know, you're gonna be paying like, I don't know, whatever it is for the steak, but you know, for a once in a while treat. He hates Dan Dizek's big appetite comments. Yeah, well, Dan Dizek is somebody that he knows off that. John Doe says, I love Big Three talk. Always happy to hear behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, you know, I try not to get into it because I just, there's no benefit in really getting into it unless, you know, somebody's asked a question. But I do get pissed off at like people, like there are these hardcore like Big Three fans that are just like, oh, Tom and PCL are the enemy because they ruined the Big Three, and it's just not true. Like, I worked my butt off, even when PCL first started to do both. You know, and it wasn't me that said, "Oh, we're not doing that anymore. Let's just do PCL." That wasn't our call at all. Since Perry started his new meds in like May, June, he seems to be unable to focus on most media shares. That's interesting, John. That's interesting. I find that he does and he does. It depends. It depends. I think the goal of the media share is to, you know, get him talking about something, and I think a lot of them get him talk. He doesn't. I think you got to keep them very basic. When you throw a lot of stuff into one media share, it's like a tip comment. You know, it gets a little hard to follow. You might be onto something there. Illegal League says, I looked up the bar cases against Dizak. The guy was a real piece of shit. He even has some YouTube episodes declaring war on California judges. Yeah, weird dude. I never got in his crosshairs, thankfully. But weird dude. Just the stories alone. You know, I always said he'd be a great character for like a lousy sitcom. You know, like just a complete like loot, you know, just like a down on his luck lawyer that takes advantage of people. You know, gets them to buy, you know, fast food treats and stuff like that. What's this? Oh, that's nothing. But yeah. Hey TomB, do you think Perry ranks up to other lolcows? I know there was a brief feud with DSP, but they're far bigger fish in the weird pond. First of all, I hate the term lolcow, and using it with Perry I think is ridiculous. I don't think he qualifies to that definition, and Perry's. I'm not saying this because I'm close to it and close to Perry. I think Perry's in his own category. But I hate that term, and I hate that term lolcow. It's such a dumb internet term. I don't think Perry meets those qualifications at all. Can we have a surprise birthday for Perry's 60th in November, male strippers? Yeah, I definitely want to do something for Perry's 60th. I don't know if it's going to happen actually on his birthday, but I'd like to recognize it somewhere. Do I listen to other podcasts, John? Yeah, you know, I've had less and less time to devote to them. But yeah, I do listen to Cameo when I can. I don't watch it, but I do listen to it. And then pick and choose others. I'll listen to Rogan if he has a really good guest, but that's rare for me. Once in a while, same thing with like that Dana Carvey and David Spade podcast, Fly on the Wall. I'll listen to that if they have a really good guest, but I'm not every episode. Yeah, you know, not. I mainly listen to or I'll watch YouTube, and then sometimes if there's a good video, I'll just like listen to it in the background. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions. I would listen to a lot of like Mets podcasts like that, but this season I just couldn't get into it at all, so no, I didn't do that. I like the Rich Eisen show when he has like a celebrity guest. I don't care about any sports. He has a lot of like, and then I listen to like there's a lot of podcasts that just put together like old like Gene Shepard is this very old radio guy. If you ever saw A Christmas Story, Gene Shepard's the guy who narrates it, and it's his story. But he was a big time radio guy in like the 60s and 70s, and I'll listen to like there's some podcasts that just play his old stuff, and I'll listen to that on drives and stuff. Do I ever listen to Two Bears, One Cave? No. Oh, and I was a big fan of Gilbert Gottfried's podcast. And once in a while, I'll listen to an old episode of that. And there's still a bunch that I've never heard. So I'll get into that. Yeah. Apart from that, I've been into this mob thing. I got on YouTube and I started watching this thing on like John Gotti. And God, it just, again, you just watch one thing on YouTube and your whole algorithm's changed. So I've been getting a lot of like Sammy the Bull stuff. I'll like, there's this... podcast with this guy Michael Franchese, I think his name is, and then the guy from the Bronx Tale, Chaz Palminteri, and they talk about like mob stuff and like mob and like Hollywood stuff. I'll listen to that every now and again. But yeah, apart from that's about it. Oh, that's cool. My mom loved Gene Shepard growing up in Michigan in the 50s. Yeah, that's he was definitely a Midwest broadcaster, and then he was on in New York radio. My dad is loves Gene Shepard too, and once in a while, if we're driving back from my sister's, like around Thanksgiving time, I'll put some Gene Shepard on, and great stuff, really great. One of the all time great storytellers. Did I ever listen to Art Bell? Yes, back in the '90s, I would listen to some Art Bell because he'd be on the radio at night, and I didn't have a TV in my bedroom, and I would, if I couldn't fall asleep, I would turn on the radio, and it would either be Art Bell or like the overnight sports guy on WFAN here in New York, and I would just listen to that a little bit and try to zone out and go to bed. Try to go to bed. I've always had bad sleeping problems. Obviously, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Perry's birthday surprise could be a male-only pool party. He would love that. Yeah. I would like the police to come to his place, like not an actual police, but like, and just have it be like the kind that like rip off their clothes. Because he's so used to the police coming at this point. He's had like a couple of police visits recently. And I think it would be funny if on kind of stream, it would have to be like a TomB week thing. Like some cops come and they just, they come in the apartment and they just start stripping down and whipping out the boombox and start dancing and stuff. I don't know. I was thinking about that recently. I was like, that would have been cool. That would have been cool to do on the last TomB week. Art Bell kind of went off the reservation. Art Bell was a certain kind of broadcaster, and then he went real crazy, and he became kind of unlistenable for me. I forget when that shift was, but yeah. There was a guy in New York, his name was, there's a lot of New York guys, but this guy's name was Barry Gray, and he would do like a late night show on WOR, and it would kind of be like a current events type show, and I would listen to it in high school because I had to go to bed, kind of when I was a kid. I didn't have a TV in my room, and I would just listen to that, and then I just started calling in the show and like prank calling all these late night shows. Tom Snyder was another one. Tom Snyder was the guy. He had a show called The Tomorrow Show that followed The Tonight Show before Late Night with David Letterman. Really good, like really great interviewer. There's some, if you look on YouTube at Tom Snyder, he's really good. Dan Aykroyd parodied him on Saturday Night Live. Anyway, he had a radio show on ABC Radio based out of LA, and he would interview, like he'd get some good celebrities and he'd be interviewed, and then he'd have another hour where he would just take calls, and man, I would just, out of complete boredom, I would call and say some really rude things, and I regret it now. Did I ever see Perry trying to date again? That Monterey. So, that's funny you say that, because I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about what if Perry ever got like a serious girlfriend? Like, how would that affect PCL? What would that be like? He'd have to move. He couldn't have a girlfriend like where he is now. I could see it. Women, this is weird to say, but that woman that came up to him, that Bella woman that came up to him when we were in the Rainbow Bar and Grill, she legitimately liked Perry and was charmed by him. Perry can be charming when he's not being creepy. So, no, it's not impossible. It's just, he's got to find the right person. Like any of us, right? Find the right person. Dana Dizak. But yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. For some reason, that popped in my brain today. I don't know why. I was just thinking about like, man, what it would be like if Perry had like a serious relationship, and like it couldn't happen in his current setup. There's no way. But I don't know. He makes okay money. More than okay money. He's got a decent savings build out. You know, he's a catch. How can I watch the two two Dans? You mean? Been wanting to see it since I talked about editing it. Yes, I did edit that. I'm very. Again, I could have handled that situation better too. I kind of just took it over because I hated the first edit, and I worked on that really hard. You know, that was the thing that Don and I worked on, and I produced it. I was a performer in it. Yeah, there's a thing called the Big 3 Premium. If it's still around, it's on there. I don't like promoting it because Perry doesn't get any cut of it, but you can find it. That was kind of another thing. That was another nail in the coffin of old Tom and Don's relationship, was how I kind of took that thing and just edited it on my own. Am I excited about the Frasier reboot? No, not really. I don't, because I think it's weird that it's set in Boston and he's not going to Cheers. And if there's no Cheers people and there's not even like, you know, his brother Niles is in it. To me, Frasier was always a character that was made more interesting by the people he surrounded himself with. Whether it was you know, as a character on Cheers or later on his own show. I thought the supporting cast on the show Frasier is what made the show, not so much Frasier himself. Not taking anything away from Kelsey Grammer, he's really good as that character, but you know, his dad, you know, I think John Mahoney was great. His brother was great. You know, the woman who played his producer was great. And he was just surrounded by a great cast, and I just don't get any whiff of that in this new reboot from what I saw. I don't see, like, I'm not like, I think there's a character that plays his son, you know, as an adult. Wasn't blown away by any of the previews I saw. I could be wrong, and it could be great, you know. But no, I'm not falling over backwards for it. To answer your question. There's some other reboot coming out that I was just like, eh. Does anybody watch the new Quantum Leap? Because I was a huge fan of the original Quantum Leap, and for some reason I'm seeing more and more commercials for it now, and it doesn't look like classic Quantum Leap. I don't even know if it's like associated with it loosely at all, but I don't know. As far as like a show, like to not take too seriously, like maybe that could be a show worth getting into, but. Hard to for me to even conceive of getting into Quantum Leap without Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. The pace is so much better for conversation. The addition of the YouTube chat. I know a lot of people don't like the YouTube chat in the chat. I get it. I know. The Office getting a reboot? That's a bad idea. Exorcist reboot looks terrible. See, that's the thing though. The Exorcist is not really a reboot. It's kind of like a, what do they call it when it's not a reboot? It's not quite a sequel, but it's not quite a reboot. It acknowledges the first movie. I don't know. I've never been into The Exorcist. I've never seen The Exorcist. The only Exorcist movie I saw was Exorcist 3, randomly, because like a friend of mine rented it when we were in high school, and it was fine for what it was. But I've never been interested in Exorcist. It just creeps me out. Yeah, there was the episode where Sam leaps into a kid with Down syndrome, and it's like, it just tells you like how old that show is now, where he leaps into the guy with Down syndrome. He looks in the mirror and he goes, "Oh boy, I'm retarded," and it didn't mean to go for a laugh, but like the R word is such a, you know, it's like so non politically correct, and I think rightfully so. I will say this about the R word. I'm all for free speech. Whatever word you want to use, that's fine. I was a big proponent and fan of the R word for a long time. Long time. I was like, you retard, you know, da, da, da. And then, you know, I don't know what it was that kind of shook me out of it. And I was like, you know, it is kind of a nasty word. And because I know you don't mean it about like, you know, actual people with Down syndrome or people with disabilities or special needs people or whatever, but if those people take offense to it, you know, like parents of somebody who has, you know, like a special needs kid or something like that, you know, I don't know, why go out of your way to hurt their feelings is my thing. But whatever, once in a while it slips out. That's the only clip you've seen of Quantum Leap? Oh, it's a really good show. Original Quantum Leap is so worth watching if that's on like Peacock, or I don't know what that would be on. I love the original Quantum Leap is one of my all-time favorite shows. It's hard for me to revisit it just because it has a terrible final episode I don't think it was meant to be a final episode, and they kind of patched it together because the show got canceled after like 5 seasons. So I really hate when a show like that doesn't have a definitive finale, and I think that really deserved it. They should have at least given it a movie finale or something like that. So it's hard for me to. It's not that hard. It's one of those TV shows where it's not like a Breaking Bad or something like that where you got to watch every episode in order. It's like you can just watch anything. You can watch like episode 18 of season 3. And then go right to episode 3 of season 4, and then watch episode 20 of season 1, and it's that. I just don't like when I invest in shows like that, and there's no real closure. Like Rick just said, there's no real closure with it. You know, they have somewhat of a final episode, but it doesn't give you that closure. Yeah, Sopranos is another example. That's why I've never revisited The Sopranos, and I know people like Jim. Jim says he watches The Sopranos every year, like the whole thing. Maybe one of these days I'll do that, but I hate that. I don't even like the second half of the last season at all. But I really hate that last episode. I hate that BS cut into black thing. I don't buy it. I don't like it. Somebody was saying like, Tony Soprano dies in the last episode of Sopranos. Like, well, you didn't show it on the show. If you wanted to show it, then show it. As far as I'm concerned, if it doesn't happen on screen, it doesn't happen. It's up to your own imagination. You can have all the intentions you want. I get in arguments with that about people like, oh no, you could see all the signs are there. Well, if that's what you want to do, show it. Don't get all avant-garde on us now. That's how PCL should end. Perry's at Denny's, and then it randomly cuts to black with no explanation given. Yeah. Maybe RC coming out of the men's room. And Perry giving him a look. That should be the last episode. Oh, but tonight, I forgot. Tonight was the last episode. Because he said he was done with show business. I'm done with show business. I'm done with you. I'm done with this fucking stream. I'm done with these fucking demons. But whatever. That's the kind of TV I watch now. I just watch in and out stuff that I can, old stuff. I watch Mission Impossible, the original Mission Impossible. Show started when I was going to bed, and now I'm going to work. Wish I could have seen it. Yeah, you'll see it tomorrow if you're on Patreon. Did I ever watch Deadwood? Yeah, I love Deadwood. I watched it. Because it came on after The Sopranos. Yeah, I watched it from day one. More so for the first 2 seasons. I think the 3rd season lost its way. Wasn't quite the same. I think the writing took a significant dip in the 3rd season. But the first season of Deadwood is perfection, from the first one to the last one. It never quite is as good as the first season when it comes back. Still very good in the 2nd season, has its moments, very good. But that show, especially, I think the entire first season is a masterpiece. Never was a Mystery Science Theater guy. I mean, I respect it. I know it. I just never got into it. Sledgehammer was great. Sledgehammer still holds up. I watched an episode of Sledgehammer within the past year. Still holds up. Very funny, underrated show. Never found its audience. Well ahead of its time. One time I mentioned Perry's porn having to do with black guys. Please elaborate. I don't remember that. I don't remember what the context there was. That's not ringing a bell at all. Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of TV shows, Moonlighting's coming to Hulu, I hear. And I know I've talked about that in the past. Moonlighting's one of those, I wouldn't say underrated show because it was very highly rated. It just hasn't been seen by anybody in decades. Chingy Chingy, Bruce Willis, really pre-Die Hard Bruce Willis, very, very good show. Apparently the show is like mired with all these problems where there's like, music, because they played all this like, top shelf music. And at the time, you'd license something for an episode of TV. That's all you're licensing for, that broadcast. And maybe reruns and stuff, but they didn't think ahead to like home video, and then they got to renegotiate all these music stuff. It's really the bane of existence of any kind of like a lot of classic shows on home video release in any form, whether it's DVD or Blu-ray or streaming. But apparently they got like 90% of the music intact, and they got replacements for some stuff, like they couldn't get the Rolling Stones or something like that, which is fine. But that'll be cool to check out when that comes on Hulu, and apparently they're all in high definition now. So I might rewatch Moonlighting. I was too young for it when it came out. My mom would watch it, and once in a while, if I was up late enough and I was kind of quiet, I can kind of like hang out and watch Moonlighting when it was on. Because it was like a show that was on 10 o'clock on like a Wednesday or Tuesday. Who was Sheba? I heard her name brought up. Sheba was somebody like a transgender type, very thin woman that Perry was involved with via Don Barris back in the late 90s. Well before my time. I think in your free time, maybe we could get a TomB top media list of likes, things you gotta watch. I go through that. It's just been like lately. Honestly, like 95% of my watching is YouTube, and the other 5% is like Pluto TV. Actually, no, I should say 90% YouTube, maybe, and then like I like Amazon Prime Video because they have a lot of old shows that aren't on anything else, like a Mannix, and I'll watch that. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying my tastes aren't for everybody by a lot, but I like discovering like movies from. You know what I watch a lot? I watch a lot of Siskel and Ebert reviews on YouTube. Specifically reviews from the late 70s, early 80s, because there's just so many movies from that era that I never heard of, and they'll review, and I'll be like, I'm going to check that out, and it's almost always like worthwhile. Like, wow, that movie's great. There's a movie I've always wanted to see, and I'm going to wait until I have like a decent TV for it, because I don't have one right now, but hopefully by December, I'll have like a semi-decent TV. But I really want to watch this movie called Sorcerer, starring Roy Scheider, directed by William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist and The French Connection. And it's a notorious bomb because it opened up right when Star Wars opened up in summer of 1977. It got buried. It's about this like South American, like this truck that has to deliver these like explosive materials through like very dangerous terrain. And Roy Scheider's the star, and it's kind of gotten another look now in recent years, where people are saying it's like a misunderstood masterpiece in a way. And I like William Friedkin in the 70s as a director a lot, so that's like one of these like there's I have a handful of 70s movies that I've never seen that I really want to see, but in a decent setting. Like obviously you can't see them in a theater. I'd like to see them on like I've had this like. This TV thing that I've been trying to set up for the past like 2 years, and it just hasn't come together for various reasons. So once I get that set up, I'd like to like have a little like start watching movies again. I'm not in the headspace for it. I did watch Smokey and the Bandit last week out of nowhere. I bought it on iTunes because it was on sale for like $5. And I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this. I don't think I've ever seen it beginning to end. And I watched it, and it's fantastic. You can get a nice 75-inch for $650 or something. Yeah, they've gone way down in price. Of course, I want an OLED, and those are not as cheap as the LCD. So the OLED that I've had my sights on has gone down in price, and I'm kind of waiting to see if Black Friday has any deals, and I'm just gonna jump on it. An 83-inch LG OLED. I was supposed to get it last year, and it just didn't come together. It was just too expensive. But yeah, there's some really good deals. I mean, you can get a 97-inch like pretty decent TV for like not that much money. It's not like it was like 10 years ago. I remember 10 years ago getting a 70-inch like that. You were talking like well over $5,000. At least. But yeah, I had these dreams. Like when I first moved into the house that I'm in now, I had all these ideas of like, oh, this room's going to be a good media room, and I'm going to set this up and that up. You know, having no idea like how much things really cost, and like, oh, this is not ready for this. I got to do this. And so really for the past 2 years I've kind of just been saving up and doing little things where I can, but I don't like compromising. I could have mailed it in and be like, all right, well, I wanted it like this, but I'll settle for this. Like, no, I don't want to settle. I'll just save up, and I'll just I'll do it when I can. So I'm finally maybe getting to that point where I can, and then I'll start maybe watching movies. I don't go to the movies either. Last movie I saw Oppenheimer, of course, because that was a big deal. But I don't know. I can't see myself going to the movies anytime soon. There's nothing coming out that interests me. I'll see Dune 2 and I don't know, whatever else. I can't think of anything else really. Okay. I guess Perry did sleep with. I'm not big on. I don't know Shiva lore, so I guess Perry did have sex with her, in quotes. Perry doesn't talk about Shiva with great fondness. Zero fondness, I should say. God damn, there's still a good amount of people. I gotta say, I do appreciate when people like stay tuned to like just listen to us kind of hang out and ramble. And one of these days, this will be a better thing. But yeah, still wow, like well over between YouTube and Twitch. There's like 400 something people. That's a decent amount of people. Tom, I love the Spoons episode of Big Three podcast. You shined behind the stories. Well, that's all. That was all Mole. That was 100% Mole's idea. We ran into a little bit of a snag with that because, it was another conflict thing where Mole had kind of beat that out really well. It was a very good idea. It was unfortunate that we were in lockdown and it had to all be done via Zoom and things like that. But the original ending for that was quite different. The Spain Spoons saga that Mole had conceived, and it was very funny. And but Don didn't like it because he wasn't the center of attention, so he kind of he always had the power because he could always take his toys and go away and go home and be like, well, I don't want to do it. No, forget it. I don't want to do it anymore. You know what? Let's just forget it. We don't need to do it. What are we doing? We don't need to do this. And he would never tell you exactly why, but you could tell. And then you have to go through this whole song and dance where Mole and I would have to talk like, okay, what's his problem? And then I'd find out what his problem is because he'd tell me, but he wouldn't tell Mole and I, three of us would be on the phone. And it was because the way I forget the beats of it, how it originally ended, but I was involved in it, and it was funny, you know. And so there was that guy Slugworth, who was like the main antagonist, and Don felt that he didn't get enough of a part in it, which was not true. Mole was always very generous about everybody getting their own parts and, you know, things to do, and there was also a lot of improv involved. Anyway, he was like not wanting to do it and, you know, being weird, and then we finally figured out that he was mad because he didn't have a bigger part, and then like Mole and I would have to talk about a 3-way call we were going to have with Don and how we were going to play it. Like, we'd have to have a game plan of like, okay, let's have this call, and then Mole will bring up, well, why don't we do this? And then I'll be like, hey, Mole, why aren't you doing this? Or something like that. Like, I'd be, you know, a bad guy or whatever. And, you know, it was just this whole fucking thing that we had to orchestrate this whole bullshit just to appease somebody else's ego. So at the end of the day, rather than throw the whole thing away, Mole was just like, okay, I redid it, and now Don is the hero. He's the one that kills the guy. Now he gets the laugh, and he gets the... And then all of a sudden, Don would never admit to this. He would never say, like, oh, this is what I want. This is how I want it done. I want to be this. He would never come out and say it. But you would have to be like, well, let's do it this way. How about if you are the guy that kills the bad guy, and you got blood all over you, and you're the guy that kind of saves the day, and then you have this thing. And then it'd be a big silence. It'd be like, all right, that can work. And then we can do this, and then he starts getting into it again. But it was never spoken of, like why he was off the whole thing until, you know, he was made, you know, the hero of it. So that's Spain. Spain Suits could have been a little bit, yeah, you know, there's a couple of things going against it. The pandemic was unfortunate because that would have been a lot funnier if there was more in-person interactions. And then, you know, Mole had to kind of acquiesce to, you know, ego and, you know, make it more about that. It still worked out really well. It's still very fun. I think it's still, that's one of the last things probably the last thing that was really, really good about that run. And I didn't have anything to do. I really offered very little to that. One of my favorite big three things is when Perry finds out someone died at Don's apartment complex without even knowing it. Yeah, well, that was Perry called me about that, and I just immediately called Don and said, "This is gold. This is a golden opportunity." Like, Perry just immediately jumps to conclusions, and that's where the Two Dans is born out of, you know. And to Don's credit, he really, you know, we worked together. In you know, and that's one where Mole wasn't that involved in that until like the actual performance of it, but yeah, that's where it was born out of, and I was really proud of that. Would Mole be willing to stop by live for PCL? I don't know. You know, I haven't. There was a period of time where I was talking to him fairly regularly, and I haven't spoken to him in a while. I think things are too weird on the other side of things. Like I said, I think he would have to be completely done with like any commitment to like Jimmy Kimmel Live or something like that, and he'd be more of a free agent. Any comment on Steel Toe horrible accusation? No, I haven't heard them. No, I don't really care. I think that guy is a big three. He's really only a fan of Windy City Heat. He doesn't know anything about PCL. And like those guys, all they do, like these yelling broadcasters, whatever, they just want some kind of beef to go back and forth on. And I'm not giving that any oxygen. You know, unless he says something really slanderous, then I'll really, you know, then I'll go after him. But I don't really give a shit. You know, it's not. We don't do that. We don't do that here. I'm not gonna. You know, because they love it when, like, any of those shows, I'm not signaling him out, any of those shows, they just love it if they can, like, play clips of somebody talking about them, then they can talk about them, and then the other person plays clips of them talking about them. I'm not getting into that. I could give a fuck. You know what? The people that know PCL know how things are and know how things go. You can look into any episode of PCL, you know, especially when we're all there in person, and draw your own conclusions about what you see. like, oh, Tom's taking advantage of Perry. You know, everybody's taking advantage of Perry. Perry's, you know, and I can see how you could look in on that. But it's like, but don't talk like you're an authority and you know what's going down when you don't. You know, I'm guilty of talking out of my ass sometimes about things, but you know, I mean, come on, there comes a point where it's like, you know, you're not an authority on anything. You don't watch PCL. You don't know anything about PCL. I'm not saying you got to like me at all, but you know, at least know what the fuck you're talking about. Did Perry really call the cops on Don? Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was funny. It's always funny when Perry's willing to throw somebody under the bus that he works closely with, whether it's me or somebody else. That's always funny. Filthy Fingers. You've managed Perry extremely well. Fuck anyone who has any issues. You can clearly tell you care for that ding-a-ling. we all do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to prove that to anybody. I really don't. You can think whatever you want. You know? I always love the thing like, oh, Tom's clearly taking advantage. He's stealing money from Perry. Why would I be doing that? Because I'd only be stealing from future me. Like, I literally, if I had the ability to like go into his accounts or whatever and take out like, you know, whatever, you know, deposit whatever I want, you know. And by the way, the people that make those accusations, that's because they would do that. If they were in the situation I was in, they would find a way to do that. That shows a lot about them. But I'd only be doing that I'd only be effing up future Tom, because future Tom's always going to have to take care of Perry, no matter what. So I go out of my way to make sure he's taken care of, not just now, present day, but a year from now, 2 years from now. I worry about that. You know, let's say I don't know how long PCL goes for. You know, another couple of years, more than that, less than that. You know, and then what? You know, then I'm right back to holding the bag. Our only beef is at Ronald McDonald. Yeah, that's what I say. Like, you know, I said that before. I don't do rivalries. We don't do rivalries here, like real rivalries. We're not going to shit talk other shows, even if they shit talk us. You know, we have our beefs with Ronald McDonald's and Kenny Caravello and Hot Amy and so on and so forth. Fabricated beefs, not real beefs. I think real beefs are cringe. That's just this is my opinion. But there are these guys though, and I see them, and they just like all they do is just yell. They don't even have a speaking voice. They're just yelling all the time, and they're just they live for these like inner show rivalries. Like they want the other person to talk about them, so they can play that clip and scream all over it, and then the other person goes back and screams all over that. It's just, I don't know. That's maybe interesting for a short time, but it gets very fatiguing, and I'm not giving any play to that whatsoever. Justice says PCL and Perry have come such a long way, but it wouldn't be anything like it is now without Tom saving Perry from the stranglehold Don had over him. Well, that's one way to put it, but thank you. I did hear one clip from that guy. I didn't hear it. Somebody told me that he said it. I should walk that back because I haven't heard any clips. But he was like, Don and Mole loved Perry, and Tom is just abusing Perry. It's like, really, bro? That really goes to show you, because even if you're an ardent Big Three fan and you hate PCL and you hate My Guts for whatever reason, you can't tell me with a straight face that you can go back there and say that Don had love for Perry. I mean, give me a break. Tom, will you get Perry a high-powered rifle for Perry to protect himself with? Absolutely not. Perry is the first person to admit that he should not own firearms. NF is going to bed. Great show as always, Tom. I mean it when I say it's been a lifeline during some increasingly hard years. See you all Friday, and hail Satan. Oh, hail Satan, NF. And yeah, you know what? If we can all hang on to little things that we love during bad periods, that's great. That's what it's all about. Something to make you laugh and check your worries at the door. I'm with you, man. So many rage stream. That's a good word for it. Rage streamers. They just don't have the juice, man. Perry is such an enigma that you honestly can't replicate it. I agree, and I'm not saying that I'm some broadcast. I'm not. I mean, I've done radio and things like that, but I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Perry. I wouldn't be doing this. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would not be putting myself out there in any way. I always preferred to be a behind the scenes type person in anything I did. But this turned into what it turned into, and that's where we are. But I don't put myself out there as like I'm the draw. I'm not. It's Perry Caravello live. People don't tune in. And that's why people never get like, oh, Tom's a piece of shit. Tom's this or Tom's that. You can say all you want. It's not going to make people like not tune in for Perry because they're not tuning in for me. They're tuning in for Perry. They're not tuning in for like if they think I'm an asshole or this or that. It's at the end of the day, it's about Perry. And, sometimes I got to talk on the air more than I would like to because Perry's being a dead fish, or I got to get a story out of him that he's not necessarily telling right. But this is Perry. It's not even about PCI. It's about Perry. Perry's the draw. It's 100%. And anybody that comes into Perry's ecosphere that doesn't understand that is lost at sea. D-Beck says, Tom, I live in the deep south and it's pretty violent, and I know you stay in New York for your folks, but where would I want to go? The high-powered rifle was a joke. I figured as much. I don't know. If I could afford it, I would love San Diego or Orange County. Those are the only two places in California that I would like to be, but California's kind of not the not the oasis that it once was. Realistically, probably East Coast. Yeah, Florida. Like I said, Florida. Florida would be my number one pick. If it was just up to me. But I would also consider Georgia. I would also consider South Carolina, possibly North Carolina. I wouldn't go much more north than that because I don't want to deal with the cold. Filthy Finger says, I was really bummed when I found out Don was actually a dick to Perry, not just like a bit, like an actual dick to him, and not to work with you. Yeah, look, there's things that happen. I don't mean to, take anything away from anybody that still loves that. Wild Bill, thank you for the super chat. PCL for life, Tom is true all-star of the show. I disagree with that. I think Perry's the all-star, but that's really nice. Thank you. And yeah, I'm still on. I'm waiting. I'm going to wrap up because I'm actually starting to get tired. Now, I usually just do this until I really feel like I can go to bed. And I feel like I can do that now. I tune in for Perry and Tom, not going to lie. That's nice of you to say. At least you aren't involved with the KB universe. He stinks after... Kevin Brennan. He stinks after Bob left. And refuses to pay Bob for what he... That stinks. Yeah, I know there's bad blood there. I don't... I don't know any of that. I never really paid attention, but that's too bad. And obviously, I love... we probably have the closest... as far as we don't get into streaming wars, with people... But we definitely have allies, and like the Shuli network is by far and away our closest ally as far as another network. We get along with everybody there, but especially Bob. Bob has really taken a real nice shine to Perry and PCL, and it's a really nice thing to see. And like I said last week, I really want to work on a Perry and Bob show where they can just talk and interact with the audience. I think that'll be great. Florida for Wild Bill. That's cool. PCL comes from a place of love. Making him audition just to mock him with no intention of helping him was just cruel. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I got into that in the past. That really was a thing for me where I was just done. I was done with Kimmel and that whole crew where... and if you don't know, I'll just tell it as briefly as I can. So this is a number of years ago. Long time ago. and Zoe Deschanel was a big fan of Perry. And she had that show New Girl on Fox, and she was big friends with Jimmy Kimmel. And, it trickled down to me, of course, since I handled Perry, like, oh, they would like Perry to go down for an audition for a part on the show New Girl, and it was for a janitor. Because I guess I've never seen the show, but I guess the show, they work in a high school. So Perry goes down to the audition. He's very excited about it, too. Like, this comes at a time where he could have really used the work. He could have really used an extra boost. And he takes it seriously. And they didn't send him a script or anything like that, but he went down to audition, and he did like a read, whatever. They videotaped him on the audition, and he was beaming afterwards. Called me, he was proud of himself. If I had to pinpoint a year for this, I don't know. It feels like maybe it would be 2016, 2017, around there. And a couple of days go by, and I talk to Don about it. He starts, telling me what Jimmy had said, and they had all seen his audition, and then I started seeing I was in the email chain of I didn't really communicate, but in this email chain it was like the usual suspects, where it would be Jimmy and his cousin Sal and Don and Mole and Johnny Knoxville, and now Zoe Deschanel, and maybe a couple other people. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the whole email is they share the video of Perry doing the audition, and they're just kind of laughing at it. They're just like, oh my God, it's really, it's what I forget. I'd only be paraphrasing because I don't remember. But I remember getting really pissed off because they were just like they were just like enjoying the fact that they got Perry to do this audition. And Zoe Deschanel made a comment in the email chain where she said, it's funny, but Perry's actually pretty good. Perry's actually really good at the audition. Something like that. And I just remember looking at it like, you fucking miserable cunt. If he's that good, why don't you just give him the job? Give him the job. Like, why are you making this like audition that he did as fodder for you to laugh at? And you're all fucking millionaires, by the way. I'm not making, maybe not Don and Mole million, but Kimmel and Zoe Deschanel and Johnny Knoxville was like, yeah, no one gave Perry anything after Windy City Heat. People say like, oh, Perry, you're an asshole for filing a lawsuit against X, Y, and Z, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but everybody else did really well. That was so Don and Mole had jobs with Kimmel for life. Perry didn't get anything. He was just the butt of their jokes, which, okay, I'm not saying that, that's a terrible thing or whatever, but, here's an opportunity to give Perry, like, a nice little bump. Give him that job as a goddamn janitor that has, like, 2 lines in the whole episode. You make him go all the way down there thinking, and then, and by the way, I'm the one who has to say that didn't materialize anywhere. Now, I have to be the one to tell him that this didn't go anywhere, but they're all like laughing at it. So that was the day I kind of checked out on Kimmel and Company, where I was like, you know what, fuck you people, like seriously, fuck you people. Like you could have given him a bone there, but instead you used it as fodder. So that's what he was talking about. That's just really, every time I even think about that, it really pisses me off. It's like, you know what, you can have a good laugh at Perry, and we all do. I laugh at things that he does. On the stream, even off the stream. Sometimes he'll burp on the phone, or I'll just like laugh at But I feel like you can't do that without giving him something in return. You got to give something, and they could have given him something right there. Just give him that shot. And there's been other things that like Perry was asked to do just because he could. Like when Jimmy wanted to impress his friend, I forget her name, Saoirse Ronan or something like that. She was nominated for some movie. I forget. Anyway, she was a big Windy City Heat fan and a big Perry fan, and he wanted to impress her. So he had Perry come down to Kimmel's studio. Of course, Don and Mole were already there, and they dressed in character, and they all like wished her a good luck on the Academy Awards. But it's like, goddamn, you can't even pay for his gas. And this is when Perry had no money. This is when Perry had zero, like nothing. Like, okay, he can come down there and do this little video for you, but can you toss the guy $100, $200 maybe? That's what I love on this stream. I know people get mad when Perry turns down money, but I fucking love the fact that he gets paid, $200 to, wear flippers or whatever the hell it is. I love that because I think about shit like that he would run off and do for years, and get nothing, not even gas money, nothing. And I love the fact that he can get paid, I don't know, $300 to push over his microwave, or no, $400, whatever it was last week when he pushed over his microwave. I love that because you know why? Because I know if a win gets back to like somebody like Don, he probably fumes over it. And good, fuck you. That's what I say. Fuck you. I'm glad Perry has had his day, and I know it's frustrating for people to watch when he's being belligerent and not accepting things and say like, when he says, no, I don't want to do that. I get it. I'm right with you. I understand 100% how the audience can get mad at Perry, but you got to understand what you're dealing with Perry, and he's been through 90 miles of shitty road to get to the point where he is now. And I think he's earned a little bit of a belligerence, because he would just run over and do shit for free. He was giving the milk away for free for so long to people that just were, you want to talk about taking advantage. I understand people can tune into PCL and hear this guy in the background and be like, oh, this guy in the background, meaning me, is clearly taking advantage of this guy who's like, whatever, being abused. I get it. You don't really know the situation, but you have no idea how much he really was taken advantage of. And in situations like that, I'm sorry, Kimmel's a fucking millionaire, multi-millionaire. He gets paid $400 to push off a microwave off his thing, but yet he comes all the way to your studio to do a whole video. And what, you can't, not even gas money. I remember that night, I had to pay him gas money. That's fucked. That's fucked. So, and that's getting back to the whole thing of like, I don't know. And I get mad at myself sometimes because it's like I was, I facilitated. I could have asked for my, why didn't I ask? Why didn't I say, hey, can Barry get paid? I know the answer would have been no. No, he's not getting paid, But, yeah, it pisses me off. And that's what it comes down. That's what it really, the whole thing came down to, is when Perry was clearly successful with PCL stuff and was clearly getting views, getting paid. Don's bitterness to it and just, I would say it, outright jealousy is what torpedoed everything. It just, you couldn't talk to him anymore. He was just, he would scream at me that I stole Perry from him, which is bullshit. He was totally willing to do both. And, he hated the fact that Perry was getting laughs without him, hated me for facilitating that, loathing the fact that fans now had completely unfettered access to Perry, which is the thing he always hated. He hated Perry on social media. He hated when fans had direct access and they were doing things without his signing off on it. He hated Mole for enjoying PCL and thinking that it was a positive thing for Big Three. And you can hear it. You can go listen to the later episodes of Big Three. His bitterness and anger and resentment towards it all is palpable. You can hear it. It's completely transparent. And then he just completely stopped talking to everybody. And it was just like, I remember it was one day I was editing those because you had to record Mole when they were doing the pandemic podcast. It was Big Three. Mole was recorded separately. Don, obviously, and Perry, and I would merge the two together and do like a rough edit and then send it to Don. And I remember the last time I talked to him, it was like for that last podcast, and I had Perry's recording because I would facilitate that, and I asked him, I said, okay, do you want to send me yours? I already have Mole's, and I'll edit. He's like, no, I'll do it myself. I don't need you to do that. And I knew he couldn't do it because it was really hard, because for some reason, when all three recorded themselves separately during those pandemic podcasts, they all went out of sync real fast. Like they didn't line up perfectly. Like you'd line it up and then it would go out of sync for a while, and then you'd have to get it again, lined it out. It was a pain in the ass because of the way it was like one person recorded in a different format and with different frequency, whatever. It just threw the timing off, and it was very frustrating to get it constantly lined up. And that's why that show, it took like 2 months for it to come out because they must have finally figured it out. But that was the last time. That was the last time I ever heard from him. And then that was it. Then it just, things went ice cold. And look, Big Three could still be going today alongside Perry streaming if Don hadn't been so bitter, angry, and jealous of Perry's success. That's my opinion. I'm sure he has a different take on it. That's my opinion, and I think my opinion is kind of valid because I was very close to it, and I really have no reason to make any of this up, and I can back it up. Trust me, my phone recorded everything at that time, so I have it all documented. And I have no problem playing the bad guy when I deserve it, and I did that plenty of times at the behest of Don, but that's definitely not the case with how things ended up. But whatever, things are better now. I want to see if I have that thing. I wonder if I have that thing, that message Perry recorded. If you bear with me for a second, I'll take a cursory glance, because of course I'm the one who had to edit that together for Saoirse Ronan. Is that her name? I think that's her name. She was in that movie Brooklyn, and then I don't know if she was nominated for that or something else at the time this was done. So let's see if it's. And this is only for her. It never went anywhere. This was just literally Jimmy sent it to her for her own little personal thing. And it's like, wait a second. Perry's not getting any of this? Like, you can't get him anything? Damn, where would that be? I used to have this drive, this one hard drive that had all that kind of stuff on it. But, things get moved around over time, and see if it's easy enough to find. Fuck, where the hell would that be? This is this app I use sometimes for Windows, at least. I don't know if it's on Mac, but it's just called Everything, and it just lets you. I find more files using this thing. It's called Everything, and it's just a search tool. And it can search by video, by audio, by file type, and it's really just. So if I put in this, I don't know if I labeled it. Oh, look at that! I think I have it. Hold on, I'm just gonna play a little bit of this, just so you can see what I'm saying. So this is the video that Perry shot. So, by the way, there's no rights or license to this thing, so it's not like I'm playing something that's like copyright or anything like that. This is what I'm talking about, just to show you that I'm not talking out of my ass. And I'll fast forward through it. Okay, let me get it on here. Bear with me 1 second. To deal with a little couple of clicks here. So this is just Perry had to come running down to the parking lot of Jimmy Kimmel Live to record this thing. For what? Why? Okay. Here it is. Okay, 2018, February 2nd. That's the. That's it. Let me just gonna play it just for a little bit.
It's fun to see.
Hold on, it's way too big. I gotta change the size of this.
It's fun to see the two of you guys.
Hey,
Big Three. All right, so listen. So here's what we're going to do.
What I'm doing here is...
Have you seen the movie Lady Bird?
Yes.
All right. I think that what we should do, because this is a real Hollywood type of thing.
Yeah.
The star of that movie, she is nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, she is. She is. Yep.
And I'll tell you this. Didn't she win the Golden Globe?
She did win the Golden Globe.
So
deservedly.
She could easily win the Academy Award.
Yeah, this is just for this woman. Sorry, I don't know.
College, but she wants to do
I don't know why that's not playing. Let me try this one. Sorry about that. Yeah, we should watch movies on here. We could watch movies on here. Okay. Let me go here. So when I was scrambling to play something impromptu, sometimes it doesn't always work.
It's fun to see the two of you guys.
Hey, big three.
You know what? I had my speakers off, so I was getting sound on it. I just wasn't hearing it. You guys were hearing it, and I'm like, "Hey, why doesn't this have any sound?" Because I turned my speakers off, like Perry.
Of you guys.
Hey, big three.
So I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit.
I wish you great luck.
Nothing
You're
but the
totally
best.
win. Nothing but the best.
You know what?
We're a big
Do
fan.
you see this? Those are my fingers crossed. That's for you.
Sweet.
Okay, and her name, the star of Lady Bird, is Saoirse
Lady Bird. That's the movie.
Ronan. Film is, forget it.
Say it. We got a billion
Cerise
people
Ronan.
watching this. Say it again.
Saoirse, I can't even pronounce her name.
Try it.
Sir-
Okay, tell a little bit about the movie.
Well, Lady
Anyway, you get the idea. That's what Perry had to do, and I don't know, like. I just think that thing, it's just such a Starfucker mentality, and I got in trouble for saying that on After Hours one time. I said that Howard Stern started going really downhill when he started becoming such a Starfucker, and I think he got that from from his buddy Jimmy, and I meant it in the nicest way possible, trust me. But Jimmy heard that and was not the biggest Tom Brennan fan after that. But yeah, but it's like God damn, God, I'm mad like watching that. Perry almost seems like the stream has been aging him. When I see him and stuff years ago, he looks like a president for I don't know if I go that far, but I think he's got to get out. I think him getting maybe regular exercise, eating a little better. Would be good for him. Script says Tom has these after hours Q&A sessions a couple years back when I would be in Don's stream and someone would be all critical, inquisitive. He'd boot them and block them. Well, that's most people, really. To be fair, we boot people every now and again too. You got to be a real asshole to be booted here. But I don't know. If you own a business, let's say you own a bar and some guy comes into your bar and sits down and starts, shit talking you, whatever, you have every right to throw them out. Some people have more of a trigger with that than others, but I don't think that that's a thing where people say, oh, it's free speech, we should be able to say whatever we want. Like, no, not really. Not if you're coming to our place, in our bar, and talking to us like that. Like I said, we let people get away with a lot of stuff, but if you're a real asshole, somebody will boot you eventually. But then there's always a way back. If you apologize and you're like, hey, we get that a lot. A lot of people drink and watch PCL. Like, hey, I was really drunk the other night. Really drunk. And I'm sorry, I said some things. And I go, okay. That happens. I guess. Bill says, after all the years listening to Big Three Podcasts, I thought it was a bit that you were paying for Perry. Oh my God, really? You thought that was a bit? I wish. I assumed Don was secretly paying him and had no idea you were in debt with him. No. I wish. That would have been nice. Nobody was paying him. Trust me. The people that should have been taking care of Perry didn't. And that's really what the sickening thing of it. Jimmy should have paid him $10K for that. I mean, okay, that's $10K is a lot for that, but I don't know. Should have got something. $500. Where did the majority of profits from Windy City Heat go? I have no idea. I don't think there were any profits. To be honest, it was I had nothing to do with that. Dude, it seems if they're on the bottom rung of the ladder, celebrities just have an arrogance that's intolerable about them. But doesn't that come with everybody? Every now and again you hear about like a big celebrity that's just like salt of the earth, great person, but isn't that rare? Aren't most people, when you get to that level of like money and, I guess power and celebrity and everything like that, I guess it's kind of hard not to turn into an arrogant asshole. Well, I put the whole video up on Patreon. I don't like putting up any like big three stuff on Patreon. I really don't. I try to keep it to just Perry stuff. No, I wouldn't do that. Do you have to pay for the Everything program? No, it's free. It's free. Just look up Everything Finder. It's tough to. Let me see if there's a. It's made by voidtools.com, and it's just, it's called Everything. I'm telling you, it's been a lifesaver for me, like from my regular work too, because I try to be organized with digital files, but there's a lot of times where I just I don't know where something is, and the fact that I can just type it in there, and it's better than the regular like default like Windows or Mac search like in a regular folder. This thing just really digs stuff out. You can search by like, oh, I have this video and maybe it was from 2019. You can just search for all videos of a certain size from 2019. It'll narrow it down. And if you have multiple hard drives, it'll search across all of them. It is it's one of those things where I don't think it's any kind of like malware tool. But even if it was, I'd be like, you know what? Even if they're secretly stealing my information, they can have it because this program is so good. But no, I don't think any of that's going on. It's really it's a great program. Tim Spicer, lots of love from Australia. Oh, lots of love to you, Tim. To you. How do I steer Perry through these IG scams, Instagram scams? Well, luckily he hasn't been on Instagram in the past 6 months. That's been a big help. Although he did the magic pill thing last time. Has Perry ever gone on Gavin McInnes' show, or would he recognize William Randolph Hearst? No, he would never recognize him as William Randolph Hearst at this point. No, he hasn't gone on, but the next time he's in New York, I did promise Gavin that Perry would go on his show because despite what people may think about Gavin or whatever, I wouldn't know Perry without Gavin. Gavin was a champion for Pete Perry and Big Three stuff when other people just weren't. And he still, I think his wife kind of laid down the law, so he doesn't really get too entrenched in Perry stuff. I think he sees clips here and there. But he was really hurt when we were in New York and Perry didn't do anything with him. And we did, Kumia and, Chrissy's show on Compound. And anyway, the next time we do a thing, although I gotta say, it sucks now because I wanted to plan this New York media trip. But now Airbnb is basically illegal in New York now. There's a thing that says that they, I guess because all of these buildings, the regular tenants were getting frustrated with all of these backpackers and trash people coming into the building to do, to stay, for the weekend or something like that, or. So they shut it down, and now it's they made the rules now where if anybody's going to stay in an apartment that's rented out with, Airbnb, the owner has to stay there. So it's going to make it more difficult if we're all going and then we got to pay for like hotels rather than an Airbnb. Gavin said he stole stuff out of Perry's apartment. Yeah, he did. He stole some like Joe cards and stuff. Nothing crazy. I know stuff about Gavin is BS, but Gavin has a distorted view of who Perry is. But yeah, I agree, D. But yeah, Gavin's not perfect. Like he has a very distorted view of Perry, and I told him straight up. I was like, listen, you got this old school view of Perry that he's like, he'll go on and say, you have to understand, Perry's a piece of shit. Perry is garbage. Perry would step on your head if you were drowning. And who does he get that from? Well, he gets it from Don, because that was the whole line of Perry. He wanted to make it look like Perry was a piece of shit who deserved all this stuff, and he was a terrible person. And yeah, I know Perry can come off as a terrible person, but he's not. He's a sweetheart. So he has that like weird, and some fans even do. People like fans like hate Pat, like all these people that like I said it when we came back, like there was this whole like this idiot campaign like, oh, free Perry's free Perry. All the people that say free Perry hate Perry's guts because they're all like Don Barris sycophants, or they want the big three. I do a spot on Gavin. That's a lazy Gavin. I can do a better job on Gavin if I really tried. That's a lazy Gavin. And no, Gavin's not a racist or anything like that. Like I said, and I've said this to Gavin, and Gavin was a great commentator. He was a great counterculture guy. He was great when he would just be a lifestyle guy, and he would tell people how to dress, or guys how to dress, or this is what guys do, or this is how you should behave when you go to a bar. This is how you should behave when you fly on an airplane. You should not recline your seat because of this. Guys should not wear shorts unless it's over 85 degrees. That stuff's great. When he got into the political sphere, I don't know. It got messy. But look, he's got his own fucking network. He does well for himself. This guy says Gavin is a full-on racist. Well, I know Gavin personally, and I can tell you that that's not true. He's not a full-on racist. That's not true. But anyway, yeah, Perry will definitely go on his show. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. People get so upset, like, oh, Perry's going to do this person's show, or Perry's going to do that person's show. I was like, yeah, get over it. It's one show. And believe me, I pause for concern with that too, because I stay away from all that political stuff. I really do. Although every now and again I get sucked back in. I'm like, God damn. I like a friend of mine will be talking about something. Oh, I didn't know that was going on. Oh, and I feel myself getting pulled back into like, no, I don't want to do it. I want to stay apolitical and not care. Is the New York City thing, is the Airbnb thing New York City and New York State? Just New York City. It's a New York City thing. It literally just went into effect, and it really kills. There's so many people that just run a business where they rent out an apartment on Airbnb, and now they can't because of this new rule. It's a bummer, PCL going down this far right road. Nobody's going down a far right road. Go wash your vagina out in a sink. Perry said has a filing cabinet full of fake credit cards or something. He said, oh, Gavin said that's not true. He doesn't have a filing cabinet of fake credit cards. That's ridiculous. Airbnb was outlawed in New York after a report of a guest leaving a Taliban flag in a house in Pottstown. Yeah, we didn't get any slack on that, thankfully. Live shows 2024. Yeah, I got to figure out like what a live PCL show would be. apart from Perry doing stand up or something like that, what would I don't want to just do something for no reason. That has to be some kind of game plan. It would be cool to do like a stream live, but got to figure out how that would work. Yeah. Anyway, don't get caught up in your feelings and your politics, whatever. Go to other streams and other places. We don't do politics here. Again, like if we talk about Trump, it's Trump writing Perry about how he should move to Florida. That's as political as we're going to get. Bill says, only time I didn't like Perry on the Chrissy May. Oh, I missed that. It went by real fast. Only time I didn't like it was with Perry on the Chrissy Mayer show with those girls. See, I disagree with that. I think the first time he went on Chrissy Mayer's show was very interesting because they were like a deer in headlights. And then the other time he did an appearance was he went up against Karnark, and I think that was good. So I disagree with that. I don't think it works if you don't really love Perry like Bob. That I agree with. I think you gotta really know and love Perry to have him as a successful guest, and that's what makes it. Perry's just not like some regular streamer or a guy, an actor or something like that. You got to know him. You got to know him, not only know him but enjoy him. Completely agree with you. Let's set up a fund and send Perry to the Bunny Ranch, then have him. How far is the Bunny Ranch from Vegas? Isn't it like Isn't it like a 2-hour drive or something like that? It kind of seems it's really out of the way. Perry is only doing right-wing comedian podcasts. Well, I got news to you. Those are the only people that have asked him to be on. Name me a left-wing. Is there a left-wing show that'll have him on? We'll have him on there. That's just, for some reason, comedians that lean conservative are more akin to liking Perry and PCL. It's just the way it is. But find me a I don't know, who's a left-wing podcaster that would have Perry. We don't care. We'd have him on there too. We don't put them on these shows because they align with politics. It's ridiculous. Polar Bear says, I struggle with painful autoimmune disease and also having open heart surgery soon, and PCL really helps me for a few hours get my mind away from pain and worries. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome, Polar Bear, and good luck on your surgery. And autoimmune disease, I know enough about it to know that that's a brutal thing to have to live with. Florida wants Perry, but we're worried about him now that there's no so-called... Okay, real talk. Is there a thing in Florida, like... Okay, let's say you wanted to go... I mean, not that Perry's a snowboarder, but could you go snowboarding in Florida? Like where would you have to travel to? Could you go to Georgia to do it? Like, I don't even know. Young Turks with Perry... With Young Turks... Yeah, by the way, Young Turks want Perry on 100%. Bill Maher... Although I don't think Bill Maher is to me, seems more of a centrist lately, because he does call out the bullshit on both sides. I don't think Bill Maher is the flaming leftist that people categorized him. But yeah, Bill Maher wants to go, absolutely, but he's not. Bill Maher is a very successful. I'm not a big Bill Maher guy, but Bill Maher is a very successful podcast. He has a big name. He would never have Perry on. You could in Georgia, yeah. So he'd have to travel. Yeah, and there's been people that have asked, like Howie Mandel. People were interested in having Perry on, but then they didn't necessarily commit. Maybe that still happened. I'm not saying Howie Mandel is not political at all, but go on anybody. not anybody. There's definitely not. I wouldn't say he'd go on anybody's show, but like, if somebody has like a big audience and they want to have Perry on, yeah, absolutely. But don't get your panties in a bunch just because Perry goes on the stream or a show, and the people that do the show are very political. I will say, when Perry goes on those shows, the topic is not politics. The topic is Perry. Okay, we don't make it about politics. They may be. I'm not saying you got to go listen to whatever show. Let's say Perry goes on Chrissy Mayer. I'm not saying you're gonna have to go listen to Chrissy Mayer talk about whatever. But when he's on that show, he's not being political. And if Perry does bring up politics, he talks about how he knows the Trump family and he's good friends with Ivanka Trump and whatever. It's nonsense. It's nothing to get so worked up about. It really isn't. Yeah, we're not. I really try not to be a political person. God, how long have we been on? We've been on. I just looked at the time the stream has been active. It's been over 9 hours. I should get the hell out of here. What are we doing with our lives? Yeah, Bob and Perry show will be a thing. I promise. And I guarantee you that won't be political. Jim was complaint about woke just a bit ago. I don't know what that means, but yeah, if you say you don't like woke shit, it doesn't make you political. Anyone who takes PCL seriously is honestly missing the point. Exactly. Why would you take PCL seriously? Keep the stream up, please. I didn't see the whole thing. Well, Jeff, I'm not keeping the stream up. You'll just have to sign up for Patreon. It'll be on Patreon tomorrow. I can't keep. It's almost impossible to keep the media share streams up on Patreon. What are we all doing with it? I know. I say that all the time, especially when like Perry's doing something like he's taking a long time to get into some ridiculous costume, and then he moseys on over and he's dressed as a giraffe or whatever. And there's times where I check my head at the door. I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm gonna be 50 years old. What am I doing? What is this? We're talking about a man who spent $500 on magic stomach pills. Who cares about his politics? Yeah, Perry doesn't have politics. By the way, gotta understand, Perry was also a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. And their whole thing is they don't do politics. Or at least they say they don't do politics. Don't forget to edit out the F-bombs. No, I know, I got them all written down. By the way, the F-bombs aren't the stream cancer that sometimes I thought it would. I looked into it more. You could probably get away with it, but I'd rather just edit it out for future concerns. Yeah, he said the F word, and then on like the copyright, there was like I don't know, Huey Lewis is probably going to nail us with copyright. So yeah, media share streams are always going to be a problem with keeping up. Once in a blue moon, I'll do it, but especially this after hours. Once I start doing after hours, like I'm never gonna keep an after hours on a PCL stream. I'll put it on my rinky-dink channel for the lunatics that want to listen. I think it's one thing to listen to it live. There are a few lunatics that request that I put them up on my channel, which I do, and I don't understand watching this after the fact or listening to this after the fact. Don't edit out your F-bombs. I didn't say. We're talking about two different F-bombs. I'm not talking about F-U-C-K. I'm talking about Perry using the slur F word. I definitely dropped some F-bombs. I won't cut that out. Although I do want to listen back to me getting a little heated up. Hello, Eggs Benny. Filthy Fingers. Hey, Tom, am I able to randomly raffle off PCL Patreon for fans? Is there a code or something I would pay for? I wish there was some kind of thing to like gift a month to yeah, Patreon's really like archaic in that sense. Like yeah, like if I wanted to sign up for PCL Patreon, I couldn't get it for free. I mean, I have the PCL account, but if I wanted to like have like a Tom Brennan account, I couldn't do it. It's really it's annoying. No, so no, doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, you can't like gift the subscription for a month to somebody. Like, hey, try it out for a month, and maybe you'll love it. But whatever. Patreon has a very modest group of people that are very loyal to Patreon, and like they love. And I work really hard at Patreon. I make sure there's again, I say it because I mean it. I think our Patreon has more exclusive stuff than any other Patreon, because a lot of people like they'll do this and that, all the phone calls between Perry and I, voicemails and things like that. There's so many exclusive just to Patreon that'll never make it to any other forum. But I do wish Patreon would evolve into something. It's a very restrictive place in a lot of ways. I would like to have a thing if we had the finances to do it. I would like to have this like PerryCaravelloLive.com be the hub for everything, and that's where you'd get all the streams and all the exclusive content and get away from a place like thing. Did Kevin Brennan hit me up to go on mic? No, I've never heard from Kevin Brennan. I did hear somebody say that he talked about me and said, like, I guess he liked it because we were Perry was talking about crickets. Davis has been a subscriber on Patreon for over a year, worth every penny. Thank you very much. Once in a while there'll be a week or two that go by where not a lot happens, but then there'll be a great call with Perry I'll put up on Patreon and stuff. So, you get Perry's Comedy Pyrrhic Resurrection and stuff. So it's $10 a month. I know that's not for everybody. But yeah. TomB, did you get my message? Kiki and Gino, dude, were really lying, opening themselves to slander. Fans are very vengeful, but you know what? Yeah, I don't. I talked about. I don't care if they're literally slandering and saying shit like as a matter of fact. Then that's that could become a legal thing. I really don't want to have to do that, but yeah, there's people talking out of their ass that don't know what they're talking about, because that's what they do. Forget Florida. Move Perry to England so he can say he wants to bum an F word and be socially acceptable. Yeah, I don't see that happening. Perry would lose a lot of weight though on the terrible food. How much is a meal from the place I like to eat? I want to buy you a meal. Oh, thank you. That's not necessary. It's like the place that I go to. It's this place. It's like it's just a kind of an old like rustic bar. It's kind of a fancy bar, but they have a good solid menu, and it's not just burgers. It's like, it's not dirt cheap, but every now and again I will go. I'll take my dad there once in a while. But yeah, I don't know. Depends on what it's like. You can get out of there for like a meal. I don't know, maybe under $50, with like a decent, all in per person. Perry should move to Afghanistan as he supports the Taliban and will love it there. Yeah, well, I think he would like Afghanistan more than he would like England. I would like to see Perry in a foreign country, though, just out of stark curiosity. Move Perry to Bangkok, one of the most humid cities in the world. I know. The humidity is going to kill us. I got 2% battery life. Oh, I thought you were gone hours. I should go too. If NF's going, I should go. Thank you, NF. Perry's got to be with his own people. Yeah, I don't know. Perry's not a big traveler. I wish he was. I'd like to hang out with Perry in Vegas, even though I'm not the biggest Vegas person myself, but I do like aspects of Vegas. I'd like to see Perry gamble. He wouldn't gamble his own money, though. You'd have to give him money to gamble. But anyway, guys, I should wrap up. It's 4:20 in the morning, and I got to be up in about 4 hours. So it's about right. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for everybody that participated. And it was a tough stream for me tonight. It really was. Perry really. I felt like I worked really hard on the stream just to get him out of that lethargic pace. And then when you get out of the lethargic pace, then you got to deal with his going ape shit. Not gonna lie, there was a couple of moments tonight where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm over it. We worked through it, and I'm sure I'll talk to Perry tomorrow, and things will be fine and everything like that. But this was a tough one. I'm not gonna lie, I was really sweating. Like I felt like I worked tonight. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I really did. He really tested me tonight. So thanks for sticking with that. I think we, like I said, I think if you cut down this stream and just cut the best bits, I think it's a very good stream. But it was a tough one. Good night, Cha-Cha. Yeah, 9 hours. I don't know, how long did we last with Perry? How long have I been yapping for? I feel like too long. I feel like I should have signed off this thing a while ago. But that's always the case. No regrets. Thank you. Seriously, thank you to everybody. By the way, thank you everybody. Not everybody, but like there was a lot of people over the weekend that like wrote really nice things saying like, "Hey Tom, I heard the stream on Friday. I hope you're okay with the flooding. I hope nothing was too bad. Let me know if you need anything," that kind of stuff. And it's weird sometimes when you do these streams. You don't realize the amount of audience that you're reaching, and that's just not from people that I normally hear from either, like just random people, and that kind of stuff makes me makes me feel good. It makes me like that we're all connected in some way, and which we are. So thanks guys, I love you guys. Really, thanks for hanging out. Thanks, I needed a good detox after after tonight, so this was it. So thanks for listening to me ramble and talking about stuff, and we'll see you on Friday. Eventually I do want to do a Wednesday stream. Maybe we can get Perry to do a Weather Matters next Wednesday or the Wednesday after, either the 11th or the 18th. I think he's due for a Weather Matters. And but yeah, until then, we'll see you Friday. PCL for life. Hail Satan, 666, all that good stuff, and talk to you then. Bye.